What's going on, fellow A-plussers? It's your boy, Adam Perez. We're back once again with a brand new live episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC television, and movie news, streaming live for you guys today over on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter, wherever you're certainly watching us from today. Thank you guys so much for certainly joining us for another live episode here, man. It is just I, your host, Adam Perez, here today, working solo dolo again for the second week in a row. For those of you who are wondering where Stuart is, he is over at WonderCon this past weekend. Him and his girlfriend decided to go ahead and stay out in that area for the remainder of the week. So Stuart should be back next week. And I have been trying to talk with Indy about trying to get Indy Uchiha certainly back on the show as well. I believe he's down a mic and a camera at the moment, but he is getting settled into his new place. So hopefully within the next few weeks, we should have Indy here, depending on if he can get the equipment that he certainly needs. I believe Indy is going to C2E2 over in Chicago next weekend. If Indy does pop up in the chat, let me know. I believe he's going to C2E2 next weekend. Maybe I can try and get him to get us some coverage, like Stuart wind up getting us a couple of panels. If you guys haven't checked out the panels that we have from WonderCon, please go ahead and do so. There is a writing and animation panel that we posted that focused on the writers from the Gargoyles 90s cartoon show, Batman the Animated Series, along with the Amazing Spider-Man. So three incredible writers. We have their panel up there. And then you also got a skeleton crew panel from WonderCon that focused on the two actors that played Neil and Wim as well. So that was a really fun panel to watch if you guys haven't had the opportunity to check that one out for yourself. So Stuart will be back next Sunday. Hopefully sooner rather than later we can get Indy back for you guys. But it is just myself, solo dolo. So we're going to be going through a couple of topics in here. I did not put in an honorable mention segment here this week. And the reason why I didn't is because I have a feeling we're going to be diving into a CinemaCon 2025 wrap up that I feel like might take us a while. Just really highlighting some of the things that happened over the weekend, some of the panels, some of the news that wind up coming out. I may not be able to talk about every studio presentation, so if there are things in particular that I might have missed that we talked about, feel free to go ahead and throw that stuff in the live chat, and then if I notice it, maybe I'll go ahead and certainly bring it up. So I may miss some things, but what I did was some of the stuff that came out of CinemaCon, I went ahead and posted on our Facebook page. So if anything, what I'll probably do is just go through our timeline on our Facebook page and pull up articles that have descriptions or new information in regards to some of the stuff that wind up dropping over the week, because it was a very busy week. Some joyfulness, some disappointment in some aspects, but I think one of the things that I continue to walk away, and I probably should have gotten this realized last year. While CinemaCon is becoming a very big sort of convention, if you will, for those that go in attendance or in the movie theater owners and things like that, if you're there, you probably have a much better time in regards to a lot of the cool exclusive stuff that you get the opportunity to see. But if you are on the outside kind of looking in, there should come a level of expectations in regards to, this is not like a San Diego Comic-Con. This is not like a CXP, whatever, the Brazil convention. This is not like a New York City Comic-Con, where a bunch of stuff gets revealed and we get to walk away with watching a bunch of trailers and casting announcements and stuff. Like some of that stuff does in fact happen, but I think CinemaCon we should have our own limit of sort of expectations as to what we get out of there, so there isn't certainly that level of disappointment. So going in next year, I'll definitely be a little bit more emotionally prepared for it, for sure. So thanks guys for certainly joining me here today. Again, no honorable mentions, but what I do want to do is give some love and some shout out to people that are watching us live today. We got some people in our chat as well, and look, as we go through these articles and these topics, if there's anything in particular that I'm talking about that you have opinions on or you have thoughts on, I definitely want to go ahead and know about them, because at the end of the day, these are simply my A plus opinions. I always want to know yours. So let your thoughts be known in the live chat or in the comment section after we go through this video. Enrique, hey Adam, just saw a new trailer for the upcoming Tron Ares, and it was amazing. Look, I'm not a big Tron guy. I think I tried to watch the sequel to the classic Tron that Disney came out with like years ago. It was just okay to me. Like I mean, it's not really a world that I am super crazy about. But I got to tell you, man, I checked out the Tron Ares trailer, which we put up on our Facebook page also. It looks incredible. I mean, for an official trailer or an official teaser, at least for the movie itself. I don't know. The idea of concept of world collides can either be great or fail miserably. It looks really cool in this regards. The visuals look incredible. It looks epic in scope. So the trailer alone grabbed my attention. So whether or not I'll go see it, I don't know. We'll see what the rest of the marketing and the rest of the trailers are certainly like. But just from a trailer's perspective, I was a big fan of the trailer. Official trailer for the upcoming season 5 of Phineas and Ferb. Wow, they're still going strong, huh? Very cool. New trailer of the documentary film Not Just a Goof. It will be released on Disney Plus. What's that about? Not Just a Goof. That sounds like something goofy related. Definitely somebody let me know. Also saw a new trailer for Star Wars Tales of the Underground, and it will be on Disney Plus May 4th. Yeah, they have a brand new series that's following in the line of the Tales of series, if you will. I feel like we've had Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Sith, and now this is going to be Tales of the Underworld that's going to be focusing on bounty hunters. They did go ahead and bring out they did go ahead and release a poster as well. I don't know if I uploaded it. It doesn't look like I uploaded it. Let me go ahead and pull this up here so you guys can see it for yourself. Tales of the Underworld. This is going to be dropping on May 4th to go ahead and continue to celebrate. May the 4th be with you, as they do every year. But let me go ahead and pull this up. They got 2 characters that they're going to be focusing on. Both I'm big fans of, and eager to kind of see where they take their characters in regards to exploring them a little bit more. Let me go ahead and pull up this poster before. There we go. I'm just loading this. Give me one moment here. And there's our poster. Pretty dope poster. I love the design here. We're going to be focusing on Cad Bane, notorious bounty hunter. We got the opportunity to finally see him in live action in The Mandalorian, which was incredible. So we kind of get to, if anything, I would assume this is like 3 episodes of Cad Bane, along with 3 episodes of Asajj Ventress. So this will probably be filling in the gaps in regards to moments in their lives, maybe moments that we haven't quite seen them yet, maybe after post Clone Wars, maybe post Return of the Jedi. Who knows? So I am eager to kind of see where they go from this. Got some lightsaber wielding people. Looks like we got a brand new Inquisitor in here. Not quite sure who this young man is holding the blue lightsaber, but clearly somebody that Asajj maybe brings under her belt to train him, or whatever the case may be. But this the new series Tales of the Underworld will be releasing May 4th for you guys. So keep an eye out on that. CinemaCon, Marvel Studios released a behind-the-scenes video of the upcoming Thunderbolts movie and a sneak peek clip of the live-action Lilo and Stitch. Guys, look, I'm not impressed with this Lilo and Stitch stuff. I'm just not. Like maybe I need to see more of it. Then again, look, to be fair, I think I maybe have seen the animated movie once. It's not something that I've always been a really big fan of, but seeing it in live action, something just feels off to me. I don't know if it's again just the clips and the trailer that I've seen. There's just like levels of emotion that I feel like is missing. But I don't know. It's soundtrack maybe. I don't know what it is. Something just feels a little bit lifeless to me. But maybe I am. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm kind of curious to know what you guys have thought about the sneak peek live action Lilo and Stitch clip that they wind up having. And yeah, I don't know if the behind the scenes video for the Thunderbolts is the one that they released recently out to the public. We did just post one on our Facebook page of them doing stunt work in regards to Florence Pugh jumping off like the second highest building in the world, sort of thing, and some of the stunt work behind that. That was actually a pretty cool behind the scenes featurette that they dropped. I don't know if that's the same thing though, but let me know. Blossom, what's up, Blossom? Certainly good to see you in here as well. We got Sam in the house coming through. Thank you so much, man. Tron Ares trailer's out. Yeah, it's badass. Hunter, what's up, Hunter? What is your thoughts on the Snyder Bros hating on sneak peek James Gunn Superman? I mean, they're gonna hate on everything, man. Unfortunately, they're gonna hate on everything. Laser, what's up, Laser? Good to see you up in here again. Appreciate it. I was a little bit late too to my own stream. Your boy went and got him some coffee for a quick pick me up. And I had to wait just a little bit longer than they said at the coffee shop. So I was a little bit delayed in certainly getting here. But, Hunter, look, we'll definitely talk about this in depth in regards to maybe not why the Snyder Bros hate on the sneak peek of James Gunn. I just don't think that they like anything that brings happiness and joy, honestly. Like, I just don't get like the cold personality of some of these people that are just, see only one vision of what Superman is certainly supposed to be. I was thinking, driving in the car today on the way back from picking up this coffee, I saw something online on Twitter, and somebody posted a clip of Superman from Henry Cavill's Superman side by side with Crypto like jumping all over Superman, and it was like, how you view both of these showcases like your perspective, or it was just something really stupid in that regards. But sometimes it's just I don't know if these people have ever been comic book fans, ever picked up a comic book in their life, or they don't understand the concept of different filmmakers having different visions for some of these characters, or being able to take influences from certain aspects of these characters' long tenure in comic books and stuff. To each their own. Like I'm somebody that I watched The Man of Steel, and I'm a big fan of Man of Steel. Like I probably drive Stuart crazy in regards to the idea that he's not a fan of the Man of Steel, but like I feel like every time I watch the movie, it gets better and better for me personally. So I enjoy what Zack Snyder did for Henry Cavill as Superman, and other people may not, and that's certainly fine. But I have the capacity to be able to understand, ooh, we have a new Superman. Let's see what we get here. Like the whole judging and putting up against one another is just childish. It's just really immature to me. Let these creators breathe and showcase their vision. And while I appreciate what Henry Cavill did as Superman, and I've always wanted him to certainly come back, I kind of dig the idea of going back to a classic Superman. Like this is a classic iteration of it with James Gunn's additional vision of adding a little bit more sci-fi elements to it that we certainly haven't seen before. So, I just think it's low capacity brain power for some of these Zack Snyder bros that can't fathom the idea of holding two concepts of one character in their head, sort of mentality. This idea of dark and gritty and groundedness, like has to be their foundation of what masculinity is and what a true Superman is. And it's just really skewered, unfortunately. And I just don't appreciate them really putting their own insecurities and their hateful foundations or whatever builds them up to have this cultist personality. I just don't appreciate them putting that on somebody like Superman when that's never what Superman has ever truly been. Doesn't mean that you can't make your vision of Superman be like that, like Zack Snyder did, and that's fine, and it worked for me. But to think that that's fundamentally what every Superman has ever been, it's just wrong and delusional. And they're gonna find everything to nitpick to make this movie be unsuccessful and to complain and bitch about it. But they'll watch it. They'll watch it. They'll watch it. And James Gunn will get their money, and Warner Brothers will get their money. And when Superman turns out to be a big success, they'll call it a failure still. But they've paid to go ahead and watch the movie. So I appreciate Zack Snyder Bros' money for sure. Hungry says, when Snyder fans start nitpicking by saying the robots are supposed to say Kal-El, not Superman, I was like, yeah, bro. I mean, it's everything. It's everything. Like, you can just never satisfy them. So that's why I don't. That's why I try not to talk about them, because I could talk about them all day. So I try not to talk about them too much, because it's just fundamentally just off their rocker, unfortunately. But all right. With that out of the way, sorry, I'm hearing my son have a meltdown in the background right now in the room while my girlfriend takes care of him today. But guys, look, let's get more into Superman minus the Snyder Bros. As we got 6 incredible topics today. We're gonna be first diving into Superman. Getting to talk a little bit about the 5-minute sneak peek that wind up releasing for us earlier this week. We also have some talk about the Marvels, as DaCosta is coming out, talking about her experience of bringing the Marvels together. We've got Sydney Sweeney news, as she's apparently set to go ahead and possibly join Gundam, and a couple of other topics we're going to be diving into for you guys today. So let's go ahead and get into our first topic, and that will in fact be Superman, baby, coming back finally. They had 2 things that they showed at CinemaCon, just so you guys are aware. The first thing that they wind up showing was a sizzle reel, some additional sequences, and then they wind up showcasing to us the sneak peek that we wind up having here. I thought that they were going to release the sneak peek certainly a little bit later, but it made sense that since they were going to be attaching the sneak peek in front of the Minecraft movie, that they released this sneak peek the very same day that Minecraft wind up hitting theaters. What is pretty funny to me, though, also is that they wind up releasing the sneak peek literally minutes before the Marvel panel or the Disney panel over at CinemaCon, which I actually found pretty funny. Now, whether or not that was intentional, I'm certainly not one to say, but it was certainly funny nonetheless. I think I posted something on Twitter like, "This is war!" Like they fired the first shot, right, in regards to showcasing some friendly competition between the two. So while we didn't get released the sizzle reel, that's actually the one that I personally am really looking forward to. They did release the 5-minute sneak peek. And if you guys haven't had the opportunity to check it out, I highly recommend that you do so. I think it's got like 8 million views over on YouTube right now. Go ahead and check it out for yourself. But it really is a focus on not only Superman, but also crypto as well. And look, I enjoyed the sneak peek. It's not something that truly like blew me away. There are moments of like, wow, like that's pretty cool. Like I'm kind of excited about it. Did it move the needle for me in regards to my anticipation for Superman? Yes, it did. First off, if you are a dog owner, I'll just say this right now. If you are a dog owner, you can relate to Superman and crypto in this sequence, okay? Sometimes I come home from a long day's work, like somebody literally just ran me over with a car, and the first thing that my dog wants to do is just jump all over me and just love on me because, oh, you're home, right? Like there's just a pure level of excitement that dogs have and just don't understand in regards to like how the human body is certainly feeling. So for me, I definitely got a chuckle out of it. If I had a complaint about the sequence, it maybe went on just a little bit too long. Just a little bit too long, maybe, and it's not, and that might be even like a nitpick for me. But there is a moment of like, okay, like is crypto gonna get it? Is crypto gonna start like pulling them, sort of thing? I think if they had cut it maybe like 5 seconds, maybe like 7 seconds, it probably would have flowed a little bit more smoothly for me. There is just like this awkward moment of like, okay, like so what's next? Like when are we gonna get to the next moment, you know? So that's what I felt like. I don't know if that's nitpicking or not, or if that's pacing of the sequence that we wind up getting, but I wouldn't mind it have shortened just a tad bit. But other than that, he looks great. I'm interested to see what the relationship is going to be like with him. He seems like he's just, the way that they talk about him in interviews, it seems like he's like this dog that just gets into everything and causes problems. And I wonder if he's going to be adding to some of the levity of this movie. Like, I think there are sequences where even somebody like a Mr. Terrific has to like get this dog under control, sort of thing. So I'm hoping it doesn't jump the shark in that regards. I hope like if he is gonna bring levity to it, that it doesn't necessarily take away from the movie itself. But I was a fan of the crypto stuff in regards to Superman. Just felt maybe pacing wise, it went a little bit too long. But once he starts dragging him, first off, really cool score by John Murphy in here, and the Fortress of Solitude that comes out. This is a really cool design for the fortress. I love the idea that it's not just sitting somewhere in Antarctica for anybody like to just find it. The fact that it literally busts out of the snow, I think visually is really cool. And it's not just your classic like triangle sort of fortress sort of thing. It feels very much like a tower. Like it's just a really interesting design. It's like a tower, but also the way that it's designed, it feels very much like a throne in some way. Like I would love like a complete like 3D rendering shot of the Fortress of Solitude from all around to kind of see how it looks in a 360 mode. But it is a really neat design, and there is something cool about the idea that it even rotates. Like when they have to calculate and figure out the different levels of sun radiation that they want to do, the different like lenses that come in, like you're looking through a telescope or something, or like a microscope. It is really cool to kind of see the fortress then turn into the direction that it needs to go, right directly into the sunlight. So the tower, like the fortress having some level of mobility, I think is really freaking neat. Honestly, I really do. And then even having just the robots come out to what, first off, the Superman crest on the front door just gave me chills and vibes. I was like, yes, like this is a true fortress here. And then getting the opportunity to see the robots certainly surprised me, but they probably shouldn't surprise you if you've read the All-Star Superman comic book, because he does have like robots in there. They legit wear capes. Like if you're talking about direct influences that James Gunn have certainly taken, he definitely takes this directly from All-Star Superman in here, as he winds up having the robots pick him up. There is some moments of levity in here when one of the robots gets excited that Superman even looked at him, sort of thing. So I don't know how much of the robots that we're going to get, but again, if they could add some levels of levity in here with just kind of really great dialogue and stuff, I can see how we can go from a moment like this where the robots are taking care of Superman to the moment in the trailer where we literally see Superman like bending over one of the robots because of the fact that it's been like torn in half and is possibly dead, right? Like I don't know which robot in particular that is. It would be really unfortunate if it's the new recruit in 4, and considering the fact of how like excited that she certainly is, to then maybe be taken away from Superman in that regards. Or maybe it's or was it 12? I think 12 was 4 I think was the voice of Alan Tudyk. I think the new one was 12, if I'm not mistaken. I can't keep them in check right now. But the fact that we see Superman bending over one of the robots in the trailer, I think in turn can really go back to this sneak peek, in the sense that, these aren't just regular robots. They clearly have some level of sarcasm or some level of personality involved. And what does that mean for the relationship between Superman and these robots that have clearly been there with him as he's grown up and gone through this superhero thing? So there clearly is a bond there. But so I kind of enjoy the levity and the excitement that the robots bring, and then just being able to see the sci-fi elements involved in here, right? Really taking Superman to another level that we haven't really seen before. We've seen a grounded Superman, and yes, we have seen spaceships from Zod, and like the really cool like terraformer or whatever, right? There have been elements of sci-fi invested in here, but we've also seen Superman Returns and the Christopher Reeve stuff that are very sort of classic. this feels like this is very much comic book sci-fi elements to me that I'm really kind of looking forward to see how it's injected into this world of Superman. I see people talking about, oh, Superman's crying. Well, I'm like, dude, the guy, they literally say he's got like 14 bone fractures or broken bones. My man's bladder, his spleen, his intestines, like this man is destroyed inside. And I could just imagine the idea that, yes, while any other time, if he's just low on energy, he can go up to the sun and just heal perfectly well. But if it's, think of like a doctor literally having to like re-break your bones like inside of your body. I mean, that's got to be torturous in some aspects. And so I really appreciate that they allow Superman to have some level of emotion and some, I'm sure he's got pain tolerance, but damn, like when you're working on somebody's internal organs, yeah, the man's gonna freaking scream like he's being torn apart inside. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. And like people act like Superman is indestructible. Like he's not. He can take a beating. Have you ever seen literally the death of Superman? Okay, the man breaks his bones. He literally bleeds. Like, this is what I'm talking about in the sense of the disconnect between people that do not read comic books and people that are maybe just like movies and television fans. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you just can't keep that in your mind of this is like the foundation of who this character is, when there's plenty years more of information out there about this character and the struggles and the pains and the beatings that this person certainly goes through. So seeing Superman in this situation does not surprise me in the least bit, but it's really cool to be able to see him in this situation. Unlike what we've seen in some of the past movies in here. The color grading looked great. Visually, it looked really stunning to me. Outside of just the pacing of the crypto scene, this looks good. Like from a visual standpoint, this looks good. I love the fact that they kind of then went into the trailer a little bit. We got to hear Lex Luthor say something along like the lines of he's back. The Superman chant still like gets me, even though I've seen this trailer a bajillion times. The little kid saying Superman, and then you hear people literally chanting Superman. There is just something like goosebumps worthy about it that, like, just as a comic book fan, I'm like, yeah, Superman's back, guys. Like, Superman's back. I literally watched this sneak peek and I was like, if I had concerns about this movie making $1 billion before, I do not anymore. I think this is going to be $1 billion movie. And maybe that's hyperbole for some. Maybe some people think that I'm over exaggerating. I thought that this movie could easily break anywhere between $750 million. But after watching the sneak peek, and I do expect a follow-up trailer here on Superman Day, hopefully within the next 2 weeks or so. I think I would I like more marketing from them? Absolutely. But there is a part of me that thinks that with the sneak peek here on Minecraft and what they released, hitting us in 2 weeks with a brand new trailer also. I don't know when we're going to get the secondary trailer after that, but if after that first trailer officially drops, if they can hit the road and have a lot of momentum, start doing a little bit more interviews, if they can. I know they want to keep a lot of stuff to their vest. Maybe get some of these side characters out there. Nathan Fillion doing interviews, Isabel Mercade, like let them start doing some interviews and stuff to build up that hype. I think if they have a really great marketing tool, I see a lot of people talking about this stuff, about Superman, and I think the momentum can certainly carry it to a really, really big box office. But I like what I'm seeing. It didn't blow me away, but there were aspects of what I saw that I was like, this feels new, this feels unique, it feels fresh, and I'm excited to see what else this movie certainly contains in it. So I'm really pumped for this, man. Like I'm truly pumped for this. I do want to bring up, let me see, do I have this article? There is an article that I posted. Time Magazine did release a brand new article highlighting David Corenswet's journey as Superman. It talks to David, it talks to James Gunn. There's a great quote in here from James Gunn as he talks, giving us a little bit more information about Superman, talking about balancing between being a superhero and being a journalist. James Gunn's quote here from the Time Magazine says, he is starting to become successful at both jobs. in the big glitzy city so far away from home. He's madly in love with a woman who isn't so sure about him, and he's made a few superhuman friends who like him but think of him as naive. All these elements in his life have unbalanced him a bit, and he's tottering. Going to and he's tottering. We're going to see where he lands in terms of his values and his choices. So I find that interesting. Again, this is clearly a Superman here who, um again, we are coming into a world that's already established. This isn't like an origin story for Superman. So we are getting to the point of, again, another perspective of Superman we haven't really seen in a first movie, in the sense of, where is he in his career? And the fact that he is successful at both things, but people view him a certain way, clearly has him sort of doubting himself in a certain extent, right? You got a woman that you clearly love or are crazy about. You guys have clearly had a thing before, but are you going to take it that one step further? And with you guys having different points of views and certain perspectives about things, how do you manage that aspect of your life, along with the idea of you being a superhero, people finding you naive? As a superhero, do you change course? Do you stop being naive? Do you then look at the negativity of people and start approaching the people in a particular type of way? That's why I think when we see the scene in the trailer where Superman is pissed, he's clearly upset. You got somebody literally chucking like a can at the back of his head, and he's got to stick with it for a minute here. Is he being naive, or what he's seeing in these people really what it is? And so the fact that we have Superman sort of in that dilemma is really fascinating to me. There's a great, we did a reaction video to, if you guys haven't seen it, on our YouTube page, to a couple of the Superman cast interviews that have been happening so far. There was a great one on Fandango that just literally talked about the relationship between Lois and Clark. And Rachel does mention the idea of Superman being naive, but it is interesting to hear David Cornensweet's sort of opinion on the idea of Superman being seen as naive, because he doesn't necessarily agree with the naivety of how Superman is described, right? He refers to it as like being naive is like being unaware, whereas Superman like is aware, but he's choosing to kind of see the good side of people. And I think that's the struggle of what Superman has to go through, in regards to hopefully maybe even him being who he is, having an influence on other superheroes to view things in a vastly different way, especially when it comes to being a superhero for the people. So, I really recommend checking out the Time magazine interview about David Cornensweet. But there was just a lot of great things that I thought not only the sneak peek revealed, but also some of the things that were talked about at the convention that were certainly appealing as well. But, look, I want to know, I certainly want to know what you guys thought in regards to it. I'm trying to see if I can find, I don't know if you guys follow a gentleman by the name of John Campia, but let's real quick, because while they did show the sneak peek, there was a sizzle reel revealed. And John Campia talks a little bit about not only the sizzle reel, but also the sneak peek. I did post his thoughts on the sneak peek, or excuse me, on the sizzle reel. If you guys haven't had the opportunity to hear the description of the sizzle reel as of yet, let me go ahead and bring this up here for you guys. And then I'll go into your guys' comments and stuff and talk with you about it. But this is the sizzle reel talk from John Campia and his crew about what they saw.
Little bits and pieces in it. The scene where Lex Luthor sees Superman fly, we got some dialogue from him. He said, he's back again, something like that. So Superman obviously came back from somewhere, right? We saw a shot of, I don't know if it was a villain, but he was half purple.
That's Metamorpho.
That's Metamorpho.
That
looked
awesome. That was awesome.
Cool. That looked so good.
That is Metamorpho. I just didn't know.
Dude, let me tell you, if there is anything that I'm looking forward to the most in Superman, it's Metamorpho. I've said this when they announced him. I thought this was the coolest thing. I've seen him plenty of times in the comics. I've seen him plenty of times in animated. The idea that they're trying to bring Metamorpho to live action blows my mind. It blows my mind, and I honestly cannot wait to see what he looks like in live action. Like, while I'm excited for Superman, there are so many side characters that I truly want to see brought to life. Hawkgirl's excited to me. Guy Gardner's excited to me. But you say Metamorpho, I'm there, man. I cannot wait to see. I'm hoping that they give us. I'm hoping what they saw in the sizzle reel is added to the trailer, because I am dying to see a much closer look of Metamorpho.
Glad you brought that up because we forgot to mention. We got our first really good look, like full body.
And it looked great.
We saw the odds that Mr. Terrific was in, where we saw a little bit more of the amount of people surrounding him and his power up. I thought that was really cool. I wish he was on stage for All Mankind. If you've ever watched it, he's the best part next to Joel Kinnaman.
He's so good
for All Mankind. I wish he was there, but excellent stuff from that sizzle reel. It was expanded views of what we've already seen, but it brings more context to what we're going to see as a whole in the film. It was great.
Yeah, we got more a little bit more of a look at Lex Luthor. We got more Lois Lane and the Daily Planet.
We got going through like the kaiju, like through the
and all that kind of stuff, extra extended stuff. That, like, again, there was a number of things that were in the trailer that they then in here gave us extended looks at.
We got a small part of Superman or Clark Kent sitting with Lois Lane, her beginning the interview.
Yeah,
she goes, "I'm here with Clark." So they have this relationship we saw from.
No, she says, "I'm here with Superman."
But and he says Superman. But they have this relationship. I really love that part too of it, because it's like they're just joshing with each other.
What was the exact line? Like she's clearly interviewing Superman, and she goes, "So you've come under fire lately?" And he said something like, "Not a lot of fire.
A little bit."
A little bit. She goes, "No, a lot of fire."
And then they cut to the part where that guy throws the can at his head. So we get like that layout of what's going on, and I appreciate all. I can't wait to see this. This is going to be excellent.
This is still my number. Look, everybody already knew Superman is my number one most anticipated movie of the year. It is only just further solidified after what we saw tonight. And clearly they are very excited about this film.
Look, as much as we love Man of Steel, at the
most
end,
underrated comic book film of all time.
At the end of that movie, it's this apocalyptic nightmare. You know, where how many civilians die? Superman kills Zod. This movie, even if it has all that happen, the tone of it is so different. I mean, it's going to be fun. It's going to be emotional. It's going to you're going to be happy watching this.
Yeah, so that's what John Campea and the rest of his crew wind up talking about when it comes to sort of the sizzle reel of what they saw. And that's why I said, like, as excited as I have been about seeing this sneak peek, I really want to see the sizzle reel, because I really want to see just a lot of this context certainly expanded on from what we've seen in the trailer so far. But I'm excited for this, guys. I truly am. I think Superman's going to do incredible. The more and more I see of it, the more hyped I get. I can't wait for the second trailer here to certainly drop. If anything, I would assume, since it's going to be dropping on probably to celebrate, what was that, April 18th for Superman Day, it'll probably be attached in front of the Sinners movie that I'm hearing great things about also. So Warner Brothers might be on a hot streak here in the next couple of weeks also. So we'll see. But I want to know what you guys are certainly saying. Hungry says they are going to still watch this movie just to compare it to Snyder. Probably. I normally don't like fan theories because people tend to be reaching, but can you actually see a plot of Superman being a reverse Kingdom Come? Yeah, I can. And I only say that because I think that's where James Gunn's influences are coming from. You know, and James Gunn is very cryptic in how he says certain things. And very early on in man, I want to see if I can find it on my Facebook page now, but very early on when he got this job, one of the very first things that he wind up releasing was a photo from Kingdom Come. It was Superman in front of the table with the superheroes behind him and stuff. and it's very much sort of in that lane of, yeah, this feels very this feels like that might be where he gets some of his influences from. Um, and he also, let me go ahead and pull this up here for you. Let me go ahead and I'm gonna pull this up here for you if I can, because I did drop. He said something in an interview about a month or so ago, that really made me open my eyes in the sense of this feels like the world that he's establishing is very um Kingdom Come oriented.
So do you know in your head where like the age of superheroes began? Like, was there a Creature Commandos back in like World War II, the way there was in the comics, I believe?
Well, I don't know if there was a Creature Commandos back, but I do know there's been metahumans and superheroes for a long time. But as time has gone on, and I don't think this is giving away too much. There's more of them today than there used to be.
Okay.
And they're more of an issue today than they used to be. So this doesn't really have anything to do with Creature Commandos, but it is, kind of where we find ourselves.
Okay.
Getting the super. Okay.
So, I mean that is the idea of James Gunn, and we posted that a couple of weeks ago. I clipped that from his interview, and I said, is James Gunn James Gunn teased the Kingdom Come series as inspiring the setting of the DCU world. Seems to fit sort of the series synopsis, which tends to be like the world is kind of overrun with metahumans, like the idea of there being too many, and not just too many, but kind of causing a problem. And this idea also of like the meaning of what it means to be a superhero has kind of gotten lost as there become more and more generations of superheroes, and more metahumans out there, and what that means for society and the world that people are kind of living in. So the fact that James Gunn brings up the world that he's populated being a world where there are a lot more metahumans now and it's becoming a problem, I think in some ways certainly like a reverse Kingdom Come. He's certainly taking elements of it. It may not be the direct storyline, but I definitely do think that he's taking elements of Kingdom Come in establishing the setting of the world. I think $1 billion is possible depending on how they market it, how great the story is this a proper adaptation of definitive Superman being a beacon of hope, and how great the visuals and actions are. Yeah, and I mean the way he talks about it is that he wants this movie to be a beacon of hope, a message about kindness. It feels like he's trying to get back to the definitive status quo of what Superman certainly represents. And I think in the society that we live in right now, where the idea of having any level of sympathy or empathy or kindness or hope about anything is really frowned upon, unfortunately. And so maybe Superman can kind of bring back what it means. And so I think this is one of those movies that will hit the zeitgeist really well, that will really speak to a lot of people and hopefully open some eyes. And I think when you have a movie like that, I think a movie like that with that type of momentum really can kind of break through. And so I agree with you. It's going to depend on how they market it. It's going to depend on the story, the visuals, and the action. So far, the visuals look great. I'm eager to see a lot more about it. Darth, what's up, Darth? Appreciate you certainly coming through today, man. I really appreciate you hanging out with us today. But yeah, remember, guys, look, as we go through these topics today and these stories, feel free to comment in the live chat. I love discussing this stuff with you guys as we go through this. But yeah, that is my thoughts on the 5-minute Superman reel, or sneak peek, I should say. And from there, let's go ahead and get into our next topic. As we're fresh off of CinemaCon, 4 incredible days. Studios went out there. They showed what they had in store, not only for the remainder of this year, but next year as well. A lot of stuff to certainly look forward to. And there were a couple things that really jumped out at me that I certainly wanted to talk with you guys about. I think we kicked off last Monday with Sony's presentation, if I'm not mistaken. They gave us some insight into some incredible things to definitely talk about. You know what? I don't think I pulled up any of this stuff. I probably should have. But you know what? I'm gonna do it this way. Yeah, I think I can still manage this. Let's see what we got here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring up our Facebook page, and we're gonna go through some of the stories and stuff that wind up being revealed to us. So certainly talk a little bit more about. So let me okay, this stuff is just gonna go in a big circle. So make sure I got the visuals ready. Okay. So yeah, a couple things. So again, I'm probably not gonna highlight everything that certainly happened over at CinemaCon, but I will definitely talk about some things that wind up happening for sure. To give you guys a little bit of an update as to what's going on. So we'll see how fast we can get through some of this, as we do have some other topics we're going to talk about. But let me go ahead and pull up the Facebook page, and then we'll talk about some of the other things that happened. So Beyond the Spider-Verse was really the first thing that wind up kicking us off. The Spider-Man verse team appeared at CinemaCon. They have announced that the movie is set to drop June 4th. So we've been highly anticipating a release date for this movie. This is set to go ahead and drop June 4th, 2027. So not June 4th, 2026, June 4th, 2027. So we're a little bit more of a year out from this film dropping. But they did give us some incredible new images as well. I think that they also showed some first footage from the new film as well. So that's pretty exciting. So yeah, here's some of the images that we wind up getting from there. I think this is the Prowler versus Miles. Yeah, you got Lord and Miller still certainly coming back. They produced and wrote the first two movies. They're known for their perfectionist tendencies and feel pressure to deliver something new with each new of these films. You can expect everybody to certainly be coming back that wind up voicing them to certainly begin with. But yeah, not only did they show brand new footage, but they really had a brand new release date for you guys as well. I love the visuals in here. I'm assuming these visuals are like actual screenshots from what they actually showed at the convention themselves. But it looks great, man. It looks absolutely great. Let's see here. What else did they announce? Oh yeah, we got Brand New Day. Spider-Man 4 was also announced here also. So if I can pull up, yeah, we got our Brand New Day logo. Tom Holland was out there. Director Destin Daniel Cretton attended the presentation also. It says the Tom Holland appeared in a video clip to announce the film is titled Spider-Man Brand New Day. Set to go ahead and hit theaters July 31st, 2026. This movie will be taking place between Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. This is what Destin Daniel Cretton said. To say that it's an honor to be standing on the stage is a pretty big understatement. He explained that he was a lifelong fan of the character and has been drawn to Peter Parker's humor and messy humanity. You know, I'm glad that he said messy humanity, because for me, growing up as a Spider-Man fan, that was one of the aspects of Spider-Man that I was always a really big fan of, was his messy humanity. It just made me feel like he's just one of us. You know what I mean? So I always appreciated that. It does say in here, Tom Holland gave a massive thank you for all the support. He added Spider-Man Brand New Day is a fresh start. Cretton called the movie a ride that we haven't really seen before. And it does reference the 2008 storyline that took place after, in the comic books, after a universe-altering event in which everyone forgot who Spider-Man was. So this is kind of taking influences not only from what happened in No Way Home, but also from the 2008 Dan Slott Spider-Man storyline as well, where everybody forgot who Spider-Man certainly was. So it looks like they're going to be taking some influences from that also. And it might be some heavy influences too, because from some of the things that I've seen, especially in recent casting calls, they're looking for anyone aged 30 to 50 years old to play a major character in here. I can't remember what the other description of it was, but a lot of people are assuming that that might in fact be Mr. Negative, who also made an appearance in Brand New Day as one of the main villains. So Mr. Negative may be making his live action appearance here in Spider-Man Brand New Day, if they're not only going to be inspired from the title, but also the storyline itself. And it does open up questions even further as to who Sadie Sink could possibly be playing in that film also. I'm starting to feel like our initial theories as to who she's playing could be completely wrong at this point. Could be completely wrong. But from a logo standpoint, I'm loving the logo, man. The logo looks great. It feels like it's while I didn't have a problem with the Spider-Man, that's not the what's that? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to look for. Well, I didn't have a problem with the Spider-Man logo previous. There was something like it feels like they just elongated it and gave it like a little bit of slant to it. So I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I really like what I'm seeing here in that regards. Let's see here. Oh, did I stop the sharing? No, I didn't stop. I didn't mean to stop the sharing. Hold on a second. Let me get this back up here. Sometimes StreamYard just be tripping. Laser says, I love this title, but Marvel will downgrade it. I hope not. I hope not. We'll see. I love the title. It feels very fitting to me. Did we get the trailer? We didn't get the trailer for the Karate Kid, but we did get oh yeah, we got some images also from 28 years later, getting the opportunity to see that a little bit more. I think the creators, Alex Garland and Danny Boyle, were at the convention talking about the idea that they have in fact filmed the first two movies. DaCosta is doing the directing for the second one, 28 years later, the Bone Temple, if I'm not mistaken. But they did go ahead and release brand new images from 28 years later, which is one of my most anticipated movies of the year. I think I'm trying to remember what all five of them were. The Legend of Ochi was my number 5. 28 years later was on my list. Thunderbolts was on my list. Sinners was on my list, and Superman is on my list as well. So this is one of the films that I'm really, really looking forward to. There's so many great movies coming out. Like April, this month alone is about to be a banger. And then you wind up having, and then you're also going to have, July is going to be a pretty big time also. Let me bring up this article here. They also highlighted Resident Evil. Zach Krieger, the gentleman behind Barbarian, and I also think he had another movie that was presented over at CinemaCon, also titled Weapons, where people got the opportunity to see first glimpses of, and they said that movie looks trippy as hell. Zach Krieger is going to be taking on Resident Evil, and he teases it a little bit. He says nothing has been shot yet, but Zach Krieger stopped by Las Vegas hosted CinemaCon to get exhibitors excited about his rendition of Resident Evil, teasing that his version is unlike any of the previous films, and it's in fact a wild ride. He says there's a moment that comes in every moment of every Resident Evil game where you find yourself standing in the mouth of a dark passageway. One shot and the gun is left, he set up. You know that something horrible is waiting for you in that darkness, that awful moment where you have to will yourself. There's something that every Resident Evil movie has game has perfected and has kept me and millions of other players returning to the series for decades. My movie will be built in the spirit of those games and follows one central protagonist from point A to point B as they descend deeper into hell. I love the sound of that. And when he says one protagonist, like how many supporting characters are we gonna have here? You know, like will he have a supporting character that will follow him for a brief period of time and then eventually, you know, go on? Like if we're literally gonna be following one person's journey, um, I will be interested to see how Zach Krieger kind of pulls this off. But the idea of really returning, look, Resident Evil movies have always scared me my entire life. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna front with you guys. Okay, every time I've played a Resident Evil game, I legit have to play it in the morning or afternoon. Like the windows got to be open. I gotta have some sunshine on me. I gotta see the sunlight. You know, it can't be too dark. Because if it's too dark, I'm not playing it. I'm just gonna be real with y'all. Okay. I'm not gonna be hiding under no covers. Like the games terrify me. All right, the games terrify me. So if they can bring that same level of terror to the movies, I'm here for it. I was a fan of the first Resident Evil movie, but they eventually just kind of jumped the shark, if you will. Can I go to like my actual hero report page? Like, let me see. Can I? Try to see. Let's see. It just keeps bringing this up. Okay. Hold on, bear with me here. I gotta scroll back, scroll the way down. The Naked Gun dropped the brand new trailer this week. Also, we'll definitely get to that for sure. There's a bunch of news that wind up sort of coming out. Trying to see where we left off at though. I think we're almost there. Was that night 2? Superman. Oh, what also they talked about. Okay, there we go. We left there. We got some big Keanu Reeves news for you guys also, which I was really excited about. Let's go ahead and break down some of this Keanu Reeves stuff. So John Wick is heavy back in the news this week also. We got a ton of announcements from John Wick. This was probably one of the bigger highlights that happened that week. John Wick 5 set with Keanu Reeves and director Chad Stahelski. It says after years of speculation about the franchise, John Wick Chapter 5 is officially moving forward at Lionsgate. Keanu Reeves and director Chad Stahelski are both back for the feature following the previous installment, which ended with the death of the title assassin. The Lionsgate chairman announced at CinemaCon on Tuesday that the studio is in development for a 5th installment in the action film. Keanu, Chad, Basil, Erica would not return unless they had something truly phenomenal and fresh to say with these characters in this world. Where'd it go? And in this world. They said the franchise has collected more than $1 billion. We can't wait for audience to see where the journey takes us next. He says it's so important to get the story right and give John's story the proper next step. It's exciting to take the first step on that road. So yeah, a lot of people beg the question in the sense of like, you know, after the death of John Wick at the end of John Wick 4, like where do you certainly go from here? And I've heard from past stories, interviews with Chad, he has been working on a premise for John Wick 5. He says he's gone through several different like scripts that he's written so far, and he says really if we are going to do a John Wick 5, it's going to be something different, something very unexpected in regards to what you haven't necessarily seen before. So what kind of levels of storyteller we're going to get in here, how much more different it's going to be from the past John Wick stuff, that I certainly don't know. But look, when your John Wick franchise continues to make more and more and more money after each iteration you put out, it does not surprise me. It does not surprise me in the least bit that they are going back to the well and making another John Wick movie. I don't think that should surprise anybody. But what I do love about the John Wick franchise is that they're not just solely relying on Keanu Reeves to continue to build this world. They also announced that John Wick sets animated prequel film with Keanu Reeves, who's going to come back and actually do the voice work here. So they're doing an animated prequel film as well. It says Lionsgate announced at CinemaCon that Reeves and Chad are producing the feature from the director Shannon Tyndall. So not only are they expanding John's story forward with John Wick 5, but they're also going back in time and getting Keanu to do the voice work. It says John Wick franchise is set to draw on the universe's origins with a new animated prequel feature. He says the new film will take place prior to the events of the first John Wick movie starring Keanu Reeves. The new project sees Wick completing the impossible task of killing his foes in a single night to fulfill his obligation to the High Table. I'm assuming this is the impossible task that he used in order to get out of the organization in order to go ahead and just live his life and be in love. It says in both animation and the world of John Wick, the possibilities are endless, and there's no John Wick story fans are clamoring for more than the impossible task. Shannon's take on that story is an incredible one, and we are beyond excited to see what John Wick can do in animation. No doubt, if there's any story that I have felt deserves to be told, it is this one. And I think the fact that they have to do it in an animated form, I think speaks volumes in regards to like how impossible this certainly was. Poor Keanu Reeves' knees probably just cannot keep up with this impossible task at his age at this point in time. So the fact that they're doing an animated prequel film for this story alone just tells me how impossible it is. The fact that they have to do it in the animated form to kind of tell this story. So I think this is really, really exciting. And I think the fact, again, that you're keeping somebody on board like a Chad Stahelski kind of in charge of this world to go ahead and continue to properly navigate it so that we can continue to get these stories properly told the way that they deserve to be, I think speaks volumes in regards to just their focus on continuing to make this stuff really, really good and entertaining. So not only did we have that release, but the John Wick universe was not done, man, when it comes to CinemaCon. They had another story. Remember, we have The Ballerina coming out too this year. So we already have our first spinoff film in The Ballerina. Now they're talking about the idea of a John Wick 5. There's an animated prequel film coming, and we have another movie that is certainly set here. From The Hollywood Reporter, John Wick universe, Donnie Yen is set to go ahead and direct a spinoff centered on the blind assassin Kane. So if you were big fans of John Wick 4, along with the Kane character, Donnie Yen, who is no slouch, no stranger to directing, being in action films, being in this world and understanding this character, we are now getting a spinoff from him as well. It says it's found as director, the action legend Donnie Yen. Yen was already starring in the Lionsgate feature, reprising his role, a blind assassin known as Kane. Now the action star and filmmaker known for Hong Kong martial arts movies such as the Ip Man series, which is incredible, will step behind the camera to direct the project, the studio announced at its presentation at CinemaCon. The studio also said that Mattson Tomlin, writer of the upcoming Batman Part 2, Netflix adaptation of the Keanu Reeves comic book Berserker, has joined to write the project. The previous draft of the screenplay for the spinoff was written by Robert Askins. It says Lionsgate is hoping to begin production later this year. So they're not even like, there's no slowing down for them. They want to go ahead and get in front of cameras before the end of the year. In addition to starring and directing, Yen will serve as an executive producer as well. From the moment Chad and Donnie pitched the idea of a Donnie Yen style action film in the mode of John Wick, I was all in, is what the Lionsgate motion picture group chair said. Donnie is not only an incredible charismatic star, but a smart cinematic director who knows how to deliver massively entertainment action for a global audience. We're thrilled that he's in the director's chair to tell Kane's story. You know, I kind of hold this equivalent to like a a Jackie Chan movie in the sense. Like Jackie Chan, when it comes to putting together movies, is so incredibly experienced, whether that be behind the camera, directing action sequences and stuff. I don't know how Jackie is when it comes to writing, if he's ever really dabbled in writing for some of his martial arts movies that he's made overseas. I'll have to look into that. But when I think of Donnie Yen and what he's capable of doing in front of the camera and behind the camera, I hold that equivalent to that of Jackie Chan also, in a sense of like, you're now teaming up Donnie Yen with somebody like a Chad Stahelski, who's incredible director for the world of John Wick. And now you're bringing these two worlds together. And I cannot imagine what a Donnie Yen movie in the world of John Wick is going to be like. If he can take the experience that he's had from a lot of his other martial arts movies and bring that to the forefront for a John Wick spin-off film, this is everything, like, as an action fan that I think a lot of us have certainly been hoping for and definitely waiting for. So I'm really excited, man. I'm really, really excited for this John Wick world and what they're about to expand off into. What else did we wind up getting from? Oh, we did get ourselves a reveal of the Hunger Games Sunrise on the Reaping. This was a logo reveal. This is going to be the next entry. I think they just released the book, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think they just released the book. So I think, like, simultaneously while the book is being written, they've been prepping for the next Hunger Games movie as well.
I think these games are going to be different.
And I think they focus on Haymitch when he's younger. But yeah, look at it. I mean, only in theaters November 20th, 2026. So production's about to start relatively soon if it hasn't done so already. But we got that announcement from CinemaCon this week. What else did we get? Let's see. I'm going to bring this back up. I just wanted to remove the volume just in case. I probably won't be playing a lot of trailers on here because I don't feel like having a copyright strike or anything like that against me, so bear with me. We had the passing of Val Kilmer, unfortunately. Look, man, I got to tell you, growing up in the 90s and 80s, 90s, early 2000s, his Batman definitely was its own thing for sure before they moved on to George Clooney. As a kid, I know we crap on the Joel Schumacher Batman movies now that we're older, but as a kid, I ate that shit up, man. The colors, the action, it felt like a comic book sort of brought to life. And for Val Kilmer to be able to etch his name in the annals of superhero and Batman legacy forever. And he was a great actor too. I mean, from Heat to Top Gun. I mean, the guy was in he was a stellar actor, and it's unfortunate that he had to pass at such. What is it, 60 years old that he was, 65? I still consider that young, Like, this man should have at least had the opportunity to live into his 80s, man. Just a complete bummer, honestly. But yeah, if you guys have any memories of Val Kilmer movies, whether that be Batman or anything else that he's been in, please let me know. Hungry says, if Spider-Man is not in Doomsday, what do you think is the most likely reason why he's not in it? I think it's because of Spider-Verse. It certainly could be. I don't know why he wouldn't be in it unless maybe some of it is taking place multiversally. Because I'm not under the impression that the Doctor Doom, if Doom is the bigger threat, I don't necessarily know if I'm under the impression of him being in our MCU at this particular moment in time. So, maybe some of Doomsday's story takes place in the multiverse and other aspects of what our heroes are currently doing right now. Like I don't know. I don't think the heroes have forgotten about Spider-Man. I think they've just forgotten about Peter Parker being Spider-Man. So like why he wouldn't necessarily be brought into the fold, that I don't know. But maybe we learn the reasons why he's not in Doomsday when we get to something like Spider-Man, and it kind of fleshes out the story a little bit more. I can't wait for Christopher Nolan's film, The Odyssey. Yeah, me too, man. It's gonna be epic. How long will the film be? How long the Odyssey film will be, as I guess in regards to like oh yeah, Willow. He was great in Willow. Oh my god, he was great in Willow. He's one of my favorite aspects of Willow. As far as like how long the Odyssey filming will be, I don't know. Probably maybe a couple more months. I don't believe it's wrapped production as of yet. It is interesting to me that Doomsday has not begun production. I thought they were supposed to begin production. It does make me wonder if they're pushing production down a little bit further in order to kind of like allow the Odyssey, the film, a little bit more, so that maybe they can then squeeze in Tom Holland into Doomsday in some capacity, even if it's for like a brief moment. Or it could be the idea that they're still working on a script. I don't even believe Doomsday has a final script yet, which is a little bit concerning. But I feel like that's Hollywood these days, or at least that's Marvel these days, in a sense of, writing as you go. So maybe they're trying to flesh out the script a little bit more before they actually get in front of the cameras themselves. Let's see here. What else we got from CinemaCon? David Fincher to direct. Did they release that at the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Did they release that yeah, I think they talked about that at CinemaCon. We are getting a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood sequel. This comes to us from the playlist. It says, in this town, it can all change like that, Rick Dalton said from the crisp snap of his fingers in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And yep, it's all just flipped upside down. David Fincher and Brad Pitt are putting aside everything they're working on to direct and star in a sequel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, written by Quentin Tarantino. So yeah, he's going to be directing the film based on the screenplay of Tarantino, who always directs his own material. Is not only an unexpected shocker, it's a cinematic first. Yeah, I wonder why he's deciding not to go ahead and do it. Look, Tarantino has also talked about the idea that he only has one more movie in him that he plans on directing. So maybe he really wants to kind of stick true to what he said. And so maybe this isn't the movie that he wants to certainly be his last. He says Tarantino must have loved the script and didn't want it to languish in a drawer, because sources close to the filmmaker tell us he approached Fincher, and Netflix has quietly put together the deal, which will probably end up being around $200 million budget to shoot in California. So yeah. So that is a surprise. Because yeah, I feel like Tarantino, being the sort of the filmmaker that he is, if he's writing it, he's kind of directing it. So this is kind of big news, to be honest with you. So yeah, does Once Upon a Time in Hollywood need a sequel? I mean, if you were to ask me, I would tell you absolutely not. But apparently, they feel like maybe it's a safer bet on Netflix than it is box office wise for a theatrical release. So if they're teaming up with Netflix, this probably may go straight to Netflix streaming. But that is interesting. But yeah, I would assume that if anything, one of the reasons why he probably doesn't want to direct it is because of the fact that he has mentioned several times he only wants to direct maybe one more movie, and maybe that's another movie that he's currently working on right now, or if he wants to hold off on it for something special. So we'll see. We also wind up getting news, another information that came out of CinemaCon that really excited me. A first look at Maggie Gyllenhaal's Frankenstein, the movie Bride. They debuted a trailer there. It says Maggie Gyllenhaal's punk rock take on Frankenstein's monster and his betrothed debuted a terrifying first look at CinemaCon on Tuesday as part of the Warner Brothers presentation to theater owners. The 90 million budget film stars Christian Bale as Frankenstein's monster and Jesse Buckley as his undead interest. Based on the footage that Gyllenhaal shared, their marriage is one that's made in hell. After all, the movie's newly revealed tagline is "Here comes the mother effing bride." It says the gruesome first look, which hasn't been made available to the public, opens with Buckley's character falling down a staircase and breaking her bones after she lands sprawled out on the floor. She finds herself on an operating table to get patched up, but only to function as a companion for a certain stitched up creature. It wasn't any accident, a voice says in the trailer. They did it on purpose. Damn, that's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, just think about the idea of like Frankenstein wanting to have a companion sort of so badly that he purposely sets up somebody that maybe he's attracted to fall and hurt themselves, only to then be able to stitch them back up, maybe come as like the hero in here, but like be stuck with this person for the rest of your life. That's kind of crazy. Nevertheless, Frankenstein's monster and bride strike up a diabolical romance, one that's heavy on blood, violence, and overall debauchery. Till death do us part, Bale's monster declared in the maniacal footage. Buckley's bride happens to agree there's nothing left to do now but live. This excites me, man. This really excites me. A punk take on Frankenstein and the bride. I'm here for it, man. I'm absolutely here for it. I cannot wait to see what this first trailer is certainly going to look like. But everything that I've seen so far visually from some of the photos that they've released seems really, really exciting to me. So I do think that Maggie Gyllenhaal's Bride definitely got itself a really great showcase at CinemaCon as well. What else did they wind up having? Let me see. I'm going to bring up this next story here and also try and get the visuals for this ready. I got two articles from this. Do we have it? Yeah. Come on, Facebook. Here we go. Okay. So How to Train Your Dragon was also shown at CinemaCon. For those of you who don't know, those in attendance actually got the opportunity to see the film in its entirety. They were not joking around when they were out there really presenting it. Not only is How to Train Your Dragon, not only was How to Train Your Dragon presented, but it also wind up getting a huge announcement as well. Here, let me go ahead and bring this up. It is official. There will in fact be a sequel. Of course, there's going to be a sequel because why not? How to Train Your Dragon dazzles at CinemaCon as first reactions praise visually stunning and fantastic live action remake, a gorgeous reimagining. How to Train Your Dragon is spectacular, a visual stunning and emotionally engaging retelling of the animated classic. Director recreates the magic of the original with lots of humor and heart. Nathan Thames' Hiccup is the definition of perfect casting, as is the majority of this cast. It's a must-see on the big screen and is a reminder as why audiences love going to the movies. This is going to be a massive hit. Gorgeous reimagining is one of the most beloved animated films of all time, full of heart. It takes everything that made the original so special and soars to new heights with breathtaking visuals and a spectacular story for a whole new generation. I mean, the list goes on and on, guys. I mean, I honestly, I know sometimes Twitter can be like an echo chamber, or it can be a place of like a cesspool at times. I have not seen a bad review for How to Train Your Dragon so far. And granted, a lot of these come from the idea of like, look, sometimes people get really excited because of the idea that they got the opportunity to see something first and exclusive. So maybe they're a little bit on that high, and so they talk a little bit, a little bit more glowingly about a particular film than it really is. But I'm going to choose to believe them in this regards. I've heard people talk about get your tissues ready, how emotional it is. Look, the first animated How to Train Your Dragon movie literally made me cry, y'all. I'm not even gonna lie. The musical score, something about the musical score really works. The emotional punches from just the animated film made me cry. And if these grown ass people are crying in the live action remake, I have no doubt I'm also gonna find myself crying at How to Train Your Dragon. So this is a really highly anticipated one for me, honestly. And so much so that literally after they showed it, to those in attendance at CinemaCon, they said, guess what, guys? How to Train Your Dragon 2 is coming. And they expect that to go ahead and drop June 11th, 2027. They're like, we don't even care if the public get the opportunity to see it. We know that they're going to love it. And we're gonna give them the sequel already. So the confidence is out of this world when it comes to this movie. And people are really excited for this one. So How to Train Your Dragon 2 coming June 11th, 2027, y'all. We got to talk about this for sure too. One of the movies I'm really looking forward to, He-Man. He-Man made one hell of an impression at CinemaCon. I really wish that they had released this sizzle reel and behind the scenes look at it to those in just in public in general. I have been dying for a first look at Masters of the Universe. Let me tell you something. Growing up as a kid, not only was I a big fan of the animated series, but because I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, but I was also a big fan of the Dolph Lundgren Masters of the Universe movie. Horrible film, okay, but it has a cult following, and I am one of those people that, as a kid, there were two movies that I would rent at the video store over and over again, and my mom got tired of it. Return of the Jedi and Masters of the Universe. Like, I would watch those movies on repeat. So the idea of officially getting some level of Masters of the Universe um Masters of the Universe sort of movie again after all these years gets me excited. Masters of the Universe I'm looking forward to, and the Voltron live action film I'm looking forward to. But they did give us more information for He-Man here. It says Nicholas Galitzine shows off He-Man training and bulging muscles in set footage. He is transforming. They got the earliest, and we mean earliest, of the looks at the long-awaited adaptation. Despite some slim pickings footage from the set, the convention were dazzled by what Amazon MGM has set in motion with stars like Nicholas Galitzine and Camille Mendez under director Travis Knight. The producer says it's the rebirth of this incredible world. Director Knight discussed his long-held love of the toys and the beloved animated series. He had He-Man's haircut as a kid, he revealed. He also showed off some huge set pieces that earned screams of approval from the crowd, including the fictional planet Eternia and He-Man's iconic sword of power. He says there was also plenty of B-roll from Galatzine's workouts, wielding swords, bench pressing, and in a criminally short snippet flexing his biceps, and a battle costume with the freshest blowout you've seen on a man in some time. It says Jared Leto stars as the big bad Skeletor, who is not revealed in any of the images. Says, let me see, I'm trying to see if it Masters of the Universe needed muscles bigger than Galentine's to survive development hell. Netflix plucked down an eye-popping $30 million in fees and holds on a version of the project that involved Buzzy brother filmmakers Adam and Aaron Nee. I'll just say that version of the film at least was going to cost like $200 million. I don't know what the cost of for this this He-Man movie is certainly going to be, but it definitely grabbed my attention, man. This is another article here from the Hollywood Reporter. Masters of the Universe gets cinematic reveal with exclusive images. It says showing off the sizzle reel of the cast and creative collaborators on set, the first time that they've seen in their costumes. The view that hit the big screen featured massive London sets with intricate backdrops, swords, and accessories, and He-Man and his full blonde glory with his hair blowing in the wind. Oh my God. Plot details have not been revealed, though it's known that Knight is directing from a screenplay by Chris Butler based on the story by Aaron Nee, Adam Nee, and David Callahan. Kicked off the sizzle reel as they took turns explaining how they are teaming to create an epic movie with characters to set the scale. Knight explained that his passion for the universe dates back to his childhood, yada, yada, yada. The reel featured many members of the creative team, saying that the rebirth of this incredible world, the scale is massive. Talks about showing off the planet Eternia, as well as character costumes. We're not making a cartoon here. We're making a live action fantasy film. I heard that they showed off also like the actors in their costumes and how incredibly sort of like toy accurate they are, which is interesting to me to see, like, how are you going to bring these toys to life, man? Like, I'm really fascinated to see how they're going to make this work. CinemaCon also revealed for you Avatar The Last Airbender fans. They did give us some information here that Avatar The Last Airbender movie gets its official title, The Legend of Aang. I think that's all that they really revealed for that movie, if I'm not mistaken. There may be a little bit more, but I think that's all that they really revealed. They also went ahead and revealed at CinemaCon some new Predator stuff also. This is from comingsoon.net. Animated Predator movie gets titles. First plot details also. According to entertainment journalist Snyder, the animated Predator movie will reportedly be titled Predator Killer of Killers. Besides his official title, he also shared a new detail about the project's plot. Let me see. Can I find it? Where did it go? Besides the official title, he also shared a new detail about the project's plot, revealing that the new movie will supposedly involve the Predator working their way through 3 different kinds of warriors. Prior to Snyder's scoop, a previous report from IO9 claimed that the animated film is almost an anthology following Predators in multiple eras. One era may see Predators fighting pirates, while another could be seen it fighting samurai. So it's interesting. There may be a little bit of kind of both in here. Predator Killer of Killers, an animated movie, involved the Predator working their way through 3 different kinds of warriors. So I am kind of curious as to whether or not, like, is it one Predator or is it going to be several different Predators during different time periods kind of further explored in here? That's what I'll be interested to see. I thought there was another article that I had pulled up for the Predator Badlands. Give me 1 second here, because they did talk a little bit more about Predator Badlands. Let me see if I can find an article on it. Okay, here we go. I'm going to pull this one up for you guys also. Predator Badlands unveils surprising premise. This is the next Predator movie coming out. Tense first look at CinemaCon. Predator Badlands stalked its prey at CinemaCon, where 20th Century brought a first look at the latest installment in the sci-fi franchise. It says Ellie Fanning took the stage to tease the new film. Something unprecedented happens in this movie, and my character is not the one being chased, is what she says. My character actually teams up with the Predator, and you get to see him in a whole new light. The footage looked bold and sweeping at times, as plenty of peril was at hand. Fanning says in the trailer, "You're hunting something that can't be killed." Fanning stars in Badlands, which hails from Dan Trachtenberg, who also did the Prey movie. He's become a key force in the franchise after helming the breakout prequel movie Prey. The movie becomes a critical hit. Badlands is one of 2 Predator movies due out this year. One of them still remains shrouded in mystery and was made a secret. I'm not assuming that the animated anthology that they're talking about is the secret one. So I am kind of curious as to what I would assume the secret one is also live action, but I could be wrong. But this seems very much like and they've said this before, that they very much are putting the Predator in the protagonist environment for one of the very first times here. So it'll be interesting to kind of see the Predator on the other side of things here. But I kind of dig it. The fact that he acquires some sort of bond with one of our main characters in here is interesting. How they communicate with each other will certainly be interesting. But yeah, I'll be fascinated to kind of see how they bring this kind of all together. But I kind of like the premise. I like the idea that when it comes to Predator, that they are taking new and fresh routes to the franchise and not just continuing to do the same old. The first step with that was Prey, which I absolutely loved as a film. Very easily rewatchable for sure. If you haven't checked it out, it is currently up on Hulu, I'm sure. But also the idea that now that you have a successful film in Prey, you can now go forward and try and do something a little bit more outside of the box. And it feels like they're really giving Dan Trachtenberg sort of that creative freedom to tell these out of the box stories for Predator. And you talk about Predator and human teaming up, the concept of a Predator being the protagonist. I always feel some type of way about when they take these hardcore villains and then turn them anti-villain, like anti-hero, and make them a little bit softer on one side, if you will. Sometimes it really detracts me from being attached to the character or caring for the character that more. So anymore. So I am hoping that Dan Trachtenberg and them kind of tread lightly here, and that even if Badlands is a success, I hope that doesn't necessarily mean that, like, going forward forever, the franchise now puts Predator in that hero light, if you will. So we'll see. But I do like, first, Ellie Fanning is a fantastic actor. So I am kind of curious to see what this movie is going to turn out to be like. But I'm excited for it. And the last thing that I'll talk about with you guys will, in fact, be Fantastic Four. We did get ourselves a brand new poster from them as well. Let me go ahead and pull this up. And we have a couple articles that talk a little bit more about the Fantastic Four here as well. Empire Magazine talked a little bit about it. It says the First Steps is a 60s space race movie shot the way that Kubrick would have made. They had a big, I'll talk a little bit about what they showed at CinemaCon for you guys, but I do want to talk a little bit about this article. It says the film, says director Matt Shackman, is looking to evoke the optimistic spirit of the 50s and 60s. This is very much about the spirit of the space race. It's about JFK and optimism. It's imagining these four going into space instead of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. This idea is that they are the most famous people in America because they're adventurers, explorers, astronauts, not because they're superheroes. And they come back and they're superheroes on top of it, but primarily they're astronauts, their family. So I do find that interesting. He does say, he says, I really wanted to go with as grounded a version of space as possible. So no wormholes. Their tech is very much retro future, but it's also booster rockets. It's a combination of Marvel and Apollo 11. He says, I really wanted to make it feel like it was made in 1965, the way that Stanley Kubrick would have made it. Within reason, there is, he says, talking about the practical sets and props. The production included a 14-foot tall spaceship miniature, similar to how Kubrick used miniatures on 2001: A Space Odyssey. He says they even used old lenses and taken an approach to filmmaking that feels more of the time. Of course, we still have a lot of CG. So it says this film, it's clear, will feel different to other MCU entries. Significantly, it exists separate from everything that we've seen in the franchise so far. Matt Shackman says we are our own universe, which is wonderful and liberating. There are no other superheroes. There's no Easter eggs. There's no running into Iron Man or whatever. They're it in this universe. I love the interconnected MCU, but we get to do something so new and so different. Eventually this world will meet up with other worlds, but for now this is our own little corner. I'm not gonna lie, this is a little bit of a bummer for me personally, in the notion of them being in their own kind of world. And I respectfully only say that because I was really hoping that we would eventually get sort of like a an X-Men tease in some sense, like maybe in this world, if we are talking about retro 60s, maybe there is sort of like a classic 60s X-Men team that might pop up in here. I'm talking like a human form mutations that we saw from the very early X-Men comics, like a human Hank Pym with big feet or an angel with real wings sort of thing, right? I really would have loved to have seen that in this world. But if not, that's certainly more than fine. But it is a little bit bummer for me in that regards. But it does allow them to then focus on the importance of this family. Like, I don't want to say they're like the Kardashians who are famous and then go into space and get powers and now they're even more famous, because, you know, I don't want to disrespect the Fantastic Four like that, because clearly they're much smarter in the sense of being astronauts, being very, teachers and things like that. So they have like this impact on the world already and they're kind of seen as superstars. And then they come back as even bigger superstars. I think there is something really fascinating about that as well. But they did talk a little bit about the filming or the footage that was revealed. This was from the Fantastic Four: The First Steps, what they had at the Disney presentation. So they talked a little bit about it. Let me see, where was the biggest debut, however, was more details from Fantastic Four. The new footage finds beloved heroes in the 1960s live talk show as their family origin story is narrated by the host. We see an image of the Thing dragging a tanker in New York Harbor. That's pretty dope. The Invisible Woman is pregnant, so she is pregnant with child in this movie. They also showcase the Silver Surfer, surfs over a fire plume. Galactus ships enters Earth's atmosphere. Galactic shadow extends over the city's skyline. And finally, when asked if everyone is going to be okay, Mr. Fantastic turns back and responds in the affirmative, but expression is anything but. A young girl goes to pick up her Thing doll, only to look up and find an ominous figure looking down at her. It all just looks fantastic. So confirmation of the Invisible Woman being pregnant in here, and they got their very first look also at the Silver Surfer, which I cannot wait to see what she certainly looks like in here. So some really cool footage was definitely shown also from CinemaCon. But yeah, guys, I think that's pretty much all that I wanted to highlight that I found on my Facebook page that we had posted throughout the week. But yeah, look, if there's other things from CinemaCon that you guys certainly enjoyed and wanted to bring to our attention, please go ahead and throw that in the live chat, and I'll definitely talk a little bit more about it for sure. But yeah, man, a lot of great things were certainly shown at CinemaCon. I just wish a lot of these things were released to the public, even if it's like still images. I would have been a really big fan of, but they clearly decided not to go that route. But look, if you had the opportunity to catch up with some of the presentations at CinemaCon this week, let me know your thoughts. If anything, I really appreciate you guys certainly joining me for my live streams from night 1 and night 2. Those are currently up on our YouTube channel. If you want to relive some of those moments, feel free to certainly go back. But yeah, it was fun. I might have to do that again next year and maybe clear my work schedule so I get the opportunity to talk more about that with you guys. But yeah, it was good times. It was good times. But look, guys, yeah, let me know your thoughts on CinemaCon 2025 and what stood out to you in regards to presentations. And with that out of the way, let's move on to our next topic, as we're going to go into the world of the MCU here and dive into the Marvels. As the Marvels was certainly a mixed bag, if you will, when it comes to how people certainly responded to it. Critics gave it a low score. If you believe or like to follow Rotten Tomatoes when it comes to their scoring, I believe it had like low 60s for critic score, but it still gave it like one of the tomatoes or something like that. I believe let me see, the Marvels. I believe the Marvels, when it comes to the audience score, wind up getting an 80%. So it was still fresh in people's eyes, but it feels like it was a mixed bag when you talk to some people about it. Maybe not the best of the MCU films, but I think certainly an entry that if you saw, you certainly enjoyed for the most part. At least I certainly did. I wasn't jumping up and down about it, but there were certainly elements of the Marvels that I found really fun. I found as a great sort of popcorn flick, some great action pieces in here to certainly say the least. Definitely warranting a little bit more in regards to the emotional connections to some of the characters. I felt like a lot of that stuff storyline wise kind of fell by the wayside. I wish that they had kind of introduced Miss Marvel a little bit differently. It was one of those movies too where I do think that maybe some homework had to be done before you jumped into the Marvels to kind of understand who some of these characters were. So maybe that left people wanting a little bit more in regards to their movie going experience. So, I find, at least, if you trust Twitter in any way, shape, or form, I usually don't, but it feels divisive to me, at least when you go on to something like Twitter. But Rotten Tomatoes would certainly say most people, for the most part, enjoyed it for what it was, not writing home about it, but walked away with some levels of enjoyment. I certainly was definitely one of those people, but this movie certainly could have been better. And the reason why I bring it up here this week is because director DaCosta, who did this film, is in the news today. And it feels like when this movie didn't necessarily live up to its box office expectations, Marvel, I think, was very quick to kind of throw DaCosta under the bus, or people attached to Marvel or insider sources started really talking about the idea of a lot of the blame was put on her. Talking about the idea that she left production early. She really wasn't in the editing booth to go ahead and put the film together. Didn't really help when it comes to marketing and things like that. So it's always interesting when you get hear the other side of things. And so DaCosta is in the news this week because she's kind of talking about her time on putting together the Marvels, and I found it quite interesting. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this. This comes to us from the world of Real. DaCosta says the Marvels wasn't the film she intended to make, and certainly take that with what you will away from it. But let's hear what she says. She says 2 years since its release, DaCosta is finally talking about her experiencing directing the Marvels. And she was quite frank in acknowledging that the release version is not the film she intended to make. It was interesting because there was a certain point where I was like, okay, this isn't going to be the movie that I pitched or even the first version of the movie that I shot, she admitted, speaking to at Storyhouse. So I realized that this is now an experience and it's a learning curve. It really makes you stronger as a filmmaker in regards to your ability to navigate. DaCosta has actually had to actually bow out of production work on the Marvels to start prep on her next film, Hida. And that caused a bit of controversy via trade reporting, but she explains that the film had been behind schedule and she had no other choice. She says, they had a date and they were prepping certain things. And you just have to lean into the process hardcore, she explained during the conversation. While the filmmaker seemed open to the process, she doesn't sound like she was happy with the final process or final product. She says the way that they make those films is very different to the way ideally I would make a film. So you just have to lean into the process and hope for the best. The best didn't happen this time, but you kind of have to trust in the machine. The Marvels lives in infamy as the biggest box office bomb in MCU history, with losses reported to be in the $300 million range. The film, plagued by reshoots and rewrites, ultimately failed with audiences and critics. A rather odd circumstance since 2009 to Captain Marvel. Its predecessor had grossed well over $1 billion. Yeah, it was definitely surprising. I mean, when you get Brie Larson back, when you get Aman Vellani back, and you got Teyana Paris involved, you would think that it would at least build upon the $1 billion that it wind up making, or at least maybe fall a little bit to like at least $750 million. But that's clearly what we did not get at all. Yeah, it was unfortunately a big box office bomb. I will say this real quick, okay? I remember when they announced Nia DaCosta as the director of this movie, and I remember thinking to myself, how many movies has Nia DaCosta made in her time? And when you go back prior to the Marvels, there may have been maybe 2 movies that she made that she was really sort of known well for. Let me bring up her IMDb here. Nia DaCosta. Okay. I looked this up yesterday, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. There are 2 movies that I recall her from prior to her time in the Marvels. And when I look up her IMDb writer, there's only 6 things written on here. A short film, Livelihood, a short film, Celeste, and then an actual film, Little Woods, back in 2018 that I remember her from, and then the most recent remake of Candyman. So when I look at this, I look at 2 movies in Little Woods and Candyman before she gets brought on to write the Marvels. Okay, so we're talking about somebody that's being brought on to make a big blockbuster movie who has sort of very little experience. Same thing when it comes to directing. Night and Day, which was a movie short, Little Woods, an actual film, a TV series back in 2019 called Top Boy, and then Candyman back in 2021. And then after that, one of the biggest films of her career in regards to the Marvels. So when I look at that, one, I'm already thinking about, wow, we have a pretty inexperienced director and writer kind of on board here. That's not to take away from what she's been able to do, because if you've seen Little Woods and you've seen Candyman, really enjoyable movies. Nia DaCosta has a particular directing style and a particular writing style about her that when I watch the Marvels, I do not feel is found in the Marvels. There are moments when you've got like the relationship building between Kamala and Captain Marvel, along with Monica and Carol. But like those moments are very brief in this movie. And when I think of Nia DaCosta movies, I find them not only grounded, but grounded in a very emotional and character-driven kind of environment and element to her writing. And a lot of that is truly lost when you watch a movie like The Marvels. There might be moments, brief highlights here and there, but as far as the groundedness of making this movie sort of have any ability to emotionally be tangible to audience members and progressing these characters forward, it feels almost very non-existent to the overall scheme of what The Marvels turns out to be. I would be really fascinated to kind of see what her first script is like, but this is not new when it comes to Marvel, right? Like Marvel, ever since they discovered the Russo brothers and they were able to make really great movies off of them, I feel like they've tried to find like these indie darlings or these people that don't have that much experience when it comes to these big blockbuster movies and try and push them into the spotlight. And sometimes when they do that, it can be a success. But I also do think too that it can also very much be a detriment. And it's a detriment in the sense that they are a process. It is a big machine, as she says in here. You have got to be able to be tangible enough to, or flexible enough to not only be able to get what you want written across, but also to be able to navigate sort of the corporate entities that is Marvel Studios and what they certainly want out of this movie to kind of be told. And I think when you are a very young filmmaker, it's very intimidating to be in that world. And I think Marvel sometimes tries to take advantage of these filmmakers and um trying to get over more what they want instead of necessarily the creator's vision. And if they can't mold or shape the vision that they want for the movie over what you want for the movie, when the movie bombs and when the movie fails, you're so young into this process that you're easily sort of like the scapegoat on the matter. You know what I mean? Where they can put the blame on you in a sense of maybe not being a machine friendly in regards to, working and, molding what it is that the story that you originally want to tell into their big corporate entity story that they certainly need to tell. And so I feel like the way that she's coming across and talking about this kind of lines up with other things that we've heard from other first time people working under the Marvel machine, if you will, and some of the difficulties that certainly come with it. Because when I think of Nia DaCosta, I don't see or feel Nia DaCosta in the Marvels by any stretch of the imagination. It feels very much like I don't want to say paint by numbers, but like Marvel Studios got their hands on it, molded and shaped whatever story Nia DaCosta did have in order to kind of make a more big blockbuster summer movie. And my thing would be like, if that's the movie that you wanted, you probably should have picked a creator or a creative that met that moment or met that sort of particular level of storytelling. Because if not, why are you even bringing Nia DaCosta in the first place, right? And this kind of goes back to, as being a producer and somebody that's putting this movie together, the studio and the creators have got to be on the same page exactly as to the movie that they certainly want to make. And if they don't share that vision, you just got to move on, and you got to get somebody else that certainly brings in that vision. And maybe after they started seeing what Nia DaCosta was technically doing, maybe for them, they're like, yeah, this isn't quite the movie that we certainly wanted to make. So let's do reshoots. And then let's just kind of, while she's not in the editing booth, we can then take what we've reshot, what she shot, and kind of mold whatever it is that we certainly want to without sort of the creator's vision or the creator being there to kind of help shape the world of the film that they're certainly creating. So definitely a downside. So I am sorry that Nia DaCosta found herself in this position. I am glad that she found I'm glad that she found it as a learning experience. And now she's gone on to be the director for 28 years later. So clearly she connected with Alex Garland and Danny Boyle in some capacity to then continue to build off of what she did from the Marvels, her learning experience, and go on to make another sort of big budget film that I think a lot of people are certainly going to watch and definitely enjoy. But I think moments like this, when the creator comes out and talks about the Marvel experience, I think it's something certainly worth paying attention to, because she's not the first person that has complained in that regards of it being a machine, and when things don't go right, what that machine can kind of put out when they don't necessarily align with the vision of what it is of the story that you're kind of telling, and it ends up with something like a mixed bag that is unfortunately the Marvels. So yeah. Marcelino, what's up, Marcelino? Good to see you, man. He says, I think the Marvel should not have had the villain instead of deal with natural disasters caused by AI. Carol destroyed. Kevin Feige was the one who hired the Russo brothers specifically. Was Russo the one to hire her, or was it Disney? I would assume, regardless, Kevin Feige is going to be the last person to give the okay on it. So, I mean, when you're the head, regardless of how much you're being stretched thin, Kevin Feige is going to have the last word on everything. If we're going to give Kathleen Kennedy the same level of hell, nobody says, oh, was Kathleen Kennedy involved or was it Lucasfilm? It goes back to the head of everything, and that definitely is Kevin Feige. He's the one that approves everything. He's the executive producer. He's the head of the studio. I don't think Disney hires somebody without Kevin Feige approving it, or it going over Kevin Feige's head in that sense. It's on Kevin Feige. So whether or not he was stretched too thin to be around to see how development was going, that's certainly on him. But you brought somebody in to have a vision, and that vision, unfortunately, the way that she wrote it in her first draft for the film that she wanted to make, just didn't come to reality. That's a little bit of a bummer. So learning experience for both sides here. But yeah, she's gone on to do other things now that I'm looking forward to in the Bone Temple for the sequel to 28 Years Later. So that's Nia DaCosta telling her story. But look, guys, I want to know your thoughts. How do you feel about what Nia DaCosta certainly had to say? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And with that out of the way, let's move on to our next topic here, as Gundam is in the news this week. That's right. We got ourselves a live action Gundam film that's certainly happening. They released this teaser poster a while ago. Co-production of Gundam live action movie has begun, as I think this is a Lionsgate film. Maybe this is a Legendary film. I can't remember. They did release this poster a long time ago. This is actually Gundam that they have built over in, I think it's there we go. Okay, let me go ahead and bring this up because we do have further development in regards to what's going on with the live action Gundam for you, as we have our very first sort of casting news. I don't believe that they've announced any other casting for this as of yet. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought this was interesting, as negotiations are in play here for Sydney Sweeney. According to this, it says she's circling Legendary's Gundam. There was a movie that I literally just saw Sydney Sweeney in that I thought she was really good in. Let me see if I can find it here. Sydney Sweeney. Oh, Immaculate. Yeah, she was just in a brand new movie called Immaculate, which I thought she was brilliant in regards to really being able to show her kind of emotional range. But Sydney Sweeney is in final negotiations to star in the live action Gundam movie coming together at Legendary. Sources have confirmed to Deadline. Details as to the part Sydney is playing is under wraps for now, as is the film's plot. As we were first to tell you last fall, Sweet Tooth showrunner Jim Mickle is set to direct the new Gundam, co-developed between Legendary and the franchise owner Bandai. From his script, Mickle will also produce with his partner The pioneer of the sci-fi subgenre known as mecha, revolving around giant fighting robots. Gundam is a long-running multimedia franchise which kicked off with anime series Mobile Suit Gundam back in 1979. They did announce that they were going to make this film back in 2021. I'm trying to see if there's no other words in regards to Sweeney is coming off turns in the hit horror film Immaculate, along with the Ron Howard thriller Eden. I hadn't seen Eden yet. She'll be seen in the Apple's thriller Echo Valley, premiering June 13th. So yeah, they don't mention any other casting announcements that might have already been attached to this. They've only really announced who the creator is certainly going to be behind this movie. So if anything, this feels like she's going to have a prominent role. Whether or not this means Sydney Sweeney is going to be like the lead protagonist, it definitely suggests here that she's gonna be at least one of the two leads that are going to be behind this movie, and I'm excited for her, man. I'm glad that she's getting more opportunity. I think people are able to see what she's able to do in the horror genre, especially when it comes to the thriller aspect. I do think Sydney Sweeney does have range, and so I am excited to see what else she's certainly capable of. I know most people probably remember her from the the horrible Madam Web movie. But if you get the opportunity to see Sydney Sweeney in anything else, please go ahead and certainly do yourself a favor. I'm still keeping my fingers crossed that this woman at some point in time plays Black Cat. I'm sure there are probably other people that might fit that role really well, but I've been dying for Sydney Sweeney to play Black Cat in a Spider-Man movie, whether that be Spider-Man 4, future Spider-Man 5. I don't care. She is my front runner for a Black Cat. So I hope Marvel Studios and Sony is certainly taking notice here. After the debacle that was Madam Web, would she even want to go back to the Spider-Man universe in any capacity? That I certainly don't know, but we'll definitely have to see. But I grew up on Gundam Wing, and I grew up on Robotech, which I believe is off of Macross, if I'm not mistaken. So I do love me a great sort of mecha story. And Gundam, for me, has a balance of everything, not just action, but politics, humanity, and things like that. So I am really eager to kind of see what this Gundam live action is certainly going to be like. I'm keeping my fingers crossed because I really don't know. Again, no plot. We haven't had a first look on it. Gundam feels like one of those movies that could be a success or a complete bomb. I do wonder if name recognition will bring people out to the movie theater, certainly, or not. So I am kind of weary of how well Gundam will be received, but I have to see a first look before I get completely hyped when it comes to Gundam. But I am a fan of Sydney Sweeney, so we'll see how she does when it comes to this movie. Maybe we wind up getting ourselves more casting announcements sooner rather than later, but this was an interesting one that I wanted to go ahead and highlight as it truly is sort of like the big first development in regards to hopefully a series of other casting announcements that eventually get dropped for something like Gundam. I think if you've been a Gundam fan, you've certainly have been hoping and praying that we get ourselves a live action adaptation at some particular point in time. And the fact that it's actually happening and it's coming here relatively soon, I'm getting excited for it, man. So we'll see. We'll see how this turns out. But let me know your thoughts in regards to Sydney Sweeney being cast as I don't know who her character is going to be, but being cast in a live action Gundam. Let me know your thoughts. What's our next topic in here? We probably might actually skim through. I don't want to say skim through these, but we'll definitely talk very briefly about these. As next up, look, this is an animated Disney film I personally have never seen, and this is Tangled. I think what's this, the Rumpelstiltskin story or something like that. But Tangled is back in the news. We had highlighted this several months ago about the idea that Disney, as they continue to go through their entire catalog of remaking all their movies into live action, it seems as though there is now a hiccup, or at least a pause, that has officially been put on this movie. I think I can't remember if they had plans on doing a Princess and the Frog live action adaptation, but that wind up being canceled too, if I'm not mistaken. So it feels like Disney is kind of taking a step back from a lot of these live action stuff to kind of wait and see. And according to the Hollywood Reporter, that might be the case. Disney's Tangled live action movie hits the pause button. Says the Greatest Showman Helmer Michael Gracie was on board to direct a musical inclined remake of the 2010 animated hit. I love The Greatest Showman. I thought that was an incredible movie. I said Rapunzel, excuse me. Why did I say Rumpelstiltskin? Jesus, Adam, that just goes to show you I've never seen this movie before. But it's Rapunzel. Rapunzel is rolling back up her hair. According to the Hollywood Reporter, Tangled says Disney's live action reimagining a film focused on the brothers Grimm fairy tale heroine has been put on pause, according to Studio Insider. The project had been an active development. Helmer Michael Gracie on board to direct, and a script by Jennifer Caton Robinson, who co-wrote Thor Love and Thunder and Do Revenge. It says the pause occurs in the wake of a rather underwhelming releases of live action adaptation Snow White. The movie has grossed only $69 million and $145 million on a production budget of $270 million. The film was plagued by controversial headlines from the start due to casting and creative choices, and then its press tour due to social media posts from star Rachel Ziegler. But Snow White didn't fare well with critics nor audiences, the latter of which have given it a B+ cinema score. Outside anything of A range is considered unsatisfying. First off, I'll get to the whole cinema score concept in a second. It currently only has 50% on review aggregator Metacritic. It remains uncertain whether Tangled will move forward down the road or undergo a creative rethink. Since the early 2010s, Disney has embarked on live action feature strategy that relied heavily on returning to its library and repurposing its old titles. Lion King had a slow start before picking up. Streaming ended with its impressive $718 million globally. Before this, The Little Mermaid earned a tepid $570 million, but Snow White seemed to test the limit of that strategy. The coming 15 months will offer 2 more live-action remakes to gauge audiences' appetite. Each one has glimmers that offer Disney reason to believe that they will be successful. Lilo and Stitch is what they're certainly referring to. It says 2 more live action remakes. What's the second one? Oh, and then Moana is set to release July 10th. That film has the benefit of being based on one of the biggest movies streaming on Disney Plus right now. So it says Tangled's pause also comes at some architects of Disney live action features strategy have exited the studio's executive ranks, and a new infusion has certainly taken place. Okay, so the people that were heavily involved in the idea of let's do a lot of these remakes are no longer with the company anymore. So they do have a fresh set of eyes and people on board now that may be kind of questioning that strategy. So yeah, this definitely does put Tangled in an interesting dilemma here of Snow White doing terribly at the box office. Can it gain sort of that secondhand momentum that Mufasa did and go on to become bigger? Who certainly knows? But with all the sour press surrounding Snow White right now, it may not have that same level of success something like Mufasa had. So when you're coming off of hit and misses, and now you're seeing how Snow White is doing, I can understand the ability to want to go ahead and put a pause on that and just see, is this the right strategy that we have? Lilo and Stitch is going to be a barometer. Moana is going to be a barometer for them, certainly going forward. I tend to push back on people that say, people don't want reboots from Disney. People don't want live action remakes from Disney or anything like that. I push back on that notion simply because of the fact that while, yeah, some of these movies have not necessarily done well at the box office, they still do really big numbers. And I think it's more or less how well you do a reboot that people care about. Not the fact that people don't want them, but they want good reboots. You know what I mean? And I say that because look, there's always this false premise that people will say Disney needs to give us more original stuff. We need more original content, not just Disney, but theaters, the movie studios need to give us more original content. It's a false premise. They do give us original stuff, but people barely go out to see any of it. And unfortunately, because people do not go and see original movies like they certainly should, the box office then implies when you get big numbers like this for reboots and remakes to make more reboots and more remakes. Now, that's not to say that Disney should just make watered down version remakes of their great classics. People do not mind reboots and remakes. What they mind is bad reboots and bad remakes. And that comes from your level of storytelling. So you have to have creators that if you are going to do these things, you can't just surmise the idea that, well, it was great animated and it made us great money. That's because those stories were great. The idea of them just remaking them doesn't mean that this movie is going to be great also. I've heard people praise How to Train Your Dragon in the sense of how you do a proper sort of animated remake or reboot of it into live action, in the sense of they held on to those great moments and that they even sort of expanded on some of the great moments from the original and added more context, gravitas, a more emotional stakes with some of the live action characters in those movies also. And so there are proper and great ways to do reboots and remakes to build off of the momentum that your animated movie did. But if you're just thinking of this as a great quick cash grab or whatever the case may be, and you're not approaching it seriously, then you may get something like a Snow White or a Little Mermaid, which I think $517 million is nothing to certainly sneeze at. I am kind of curious if it made its budget back at all, or if it broke even or made any level of profit. That I certainly don't know. But if you're going to do a remake to these movies, you got to come at it with great care, great attention, smart writing, and building off what first officially came. I went and I saw Dumbo, and Dumbo was like the biggest piece of ish I have ever seen. Dumbo was one of those films I nearly almost walked out of. Look, I understand it's probably hard to stay true to a Dumbo script in this day and age, just from a creative filmmaker standpoint. But that movie felt like a cash grab to me, in a sense of just building off of its name. So I can understand the idea of like, maybe they're making Tangled and they see Tangled and they're like, this is just not good enough. So maybe we should take a pause and see how people are going to react to something like Lilo and Stitch or even Moana. And if those two can kind of catch fire, maybe you continue along this path, but maybe rethink who you're bringing on as your creatives to build off of the animated stuff. Or maybe you pick and choose the ones that you reboot instead of just notion of we're just going to remake every animated film that we've ever done before, because that doesn't necessarily work either. So I am glad that they're kind of taking a pause on Tangled and figuring things out. Let things have the opportunity to breathe, and maybe with new management on board, maybe they'll certainly rethink how they handle this. This concept too of CinemaScore, I am a big fan of CinemaScore. I like to go ahead and check out what people are saying, but I just find it asinine that somehow we have come to take the idea of a B plus as unsatisfying. Like, when did the B plus of anything become dog shit? Like, I'm sorry. Like, here at APlus Hero Report, we do have a report card for some of the movies that we watch. We haven't done it in quite some time, and I am trying to figure out a way to bring it back in regards to grading the movies that we watch, because I do think report cards are very interesting in a sense of how you grade movies, but I just feel like we've become a society of perfectionism almost. Like the idea of watching a movie that's good is all of a sudden like frowned upon. Like the movie's got to be great in order for you to go ahead and see a movie. And maybe these days a movie does have to be great in order to earn people's money, considering exactly as to how incredibly expensive going to the movie theater is. But the notion that Cinema Score, and I don't know if Cinema Score has pushed this narrative or the people that use these cinema scores have pushed this narrative, but the idea of anything outside an A range being considered unsatisfying. Look, I'm sorry, but half this nation, if they took that same mentality of you have to have an A to graduate school, we would have a lot of undergraduated, like no college degrees, no diploma people out here. A lot of us would be considered idiots if B pluses were not found acceptable. Like I would go home and celebrate a B plus when I opened up a report card sometimes. Like I was terrible at math, but if I got a B plus in math, hell yeah, that's a great freaking job. Like when did B plus of anything be considered a failure? And like that's just crazy to me that we only go see cinema score movies that have A's and talk about poorly about films that have B pluses. Like when did that become a thing? That's crazy to me. Like that's crazy to me that that is actually how people view B pluses. I'm like, guys, what do we want nowadays? You know, movies aren't going to be perfect. You can go see an enjoyable, good film. It may not be perfect, but you can walk away, have a great popcorn film, and still talk good about a film. Like, that's just crazy to me. So, this pressure, this concept of like, you need to make an A for people to even acknowledge the fact that they may want to see a movie, we got to change that narrative. We have got to change that narrative. Because if that's the case, people are never going to go to the movies and may really ruin the concept of like what it is to just enjoy cinema in general. I don't think we should be asking for perfectionism from people. Just making a movie is hard enough. But the idea of like bringing home a report card, somebody's seen B plus, and they're like, you know what, that's just not good enough, babe. Like, I don't think you should progress to the next grade in your school. Like, you should be held back. Like, that's crazy to me. That we hold that same standard now to like that we hold that standard to movies. That's just crazy to me. That's just not enjoying movies anymore to me personally. But look, I want to know your guys' thoughts for sure. Blossom says Tangled is Rapunzel. Yes, correct. Rapunzel story. That's why I said when I read, I was like, why did I say Rumpelstiltskin? Isn't that the dude that like is Rumpelstiltskin the one that made gold out of straw or some shit like that? I can't remember. I don't keep up with my Brother Grimm stories. I'm so sorry. But I corrected myself. She says, be smart with the writing as well as use your imagination. Absolutely, Blossom. I totally agree with that for sure. Sam says, only best Disney remake is Lady and the Tramp, The Lion King, and Beauty and the Beast. In the 90s, 101 Dalmatians one. Yeah, those are some pretty good ones. I actually really liked Aladdin too. Aladdin really worked for me. I thought Aladdin was really fun. Marcelino says, many say that Cinderella. I've heard good things about Cinderella also. Blossom says Rumpelstiltskin did spin straw into gold only in exchange for the queen's first child. See, so I know who Rumpelstiltskin is. I just got the R's. The R's threw me off. I'm sorry. But thank you for correcting me on that. Sam also says Christopher Robin is all right, not without Gopher. I haven't checked that one out yet. Maybe I'll have to check that one out. But let me know your thoughts, guys, on the movement of Tangled now being paused as Disney may be changing course in regards to their live action, or at least getting the opportunity to see how Lilo and Stitch and Moana certainly does. And with that out of the way, we got one last topic here. As we're going to dive into the world of Chronicles of Narnia. As this was one of the craziest announcements that I have heard. I am kind of curious if this announcement is true or not, or if this certainly has time to flesh itself out. You know, we talked a couple of weeks ago about the idea of Daniel Craig circling Chronicles of Narnia, that he was approached and that an offer was certainly made to Daniel Craig to be in the film. There was no revelation as to who Daniel Craig was certainly going to be, but the first notion that a lot of people thought was Aslan. Like, there's no doubt about it. It's Aslan. It's got to be Aslan. Like, why would Daniel Craig jump on board Chronicles of Narnia if it's not Aslan? That may or may not be the case. That may or may not be the case. This week, we actually wind up getting a casting announcement, or at least, well, I don't want to say it's a casting announcement, but this is a rumored offer that has been put out there. So let me just premise that with this before we move on. But according to Deadline.com and other trades, Meryl Streep, and I love Meryl Streep. She's Hollywood legend. Okay, legendary status for sure. Meryl Streep is in talks to play Aslan in Greta Gerwig's Narnia movie. Say what? What is going on here, y'all? Look, shout out to Greta Gerwig and what she did with Barbie. Over $1 billion, I think $1.4 billion. She crushed it. She absolutely crushed it. But I'm really questioning now, like, what is this Chronicles of Narnia turning out to be? We had heard, you know, I think Marcelino put us on to a quote from somebody last week or the week before, like week prior, talking about Chronicles of Narnia is going to be very rock and roll. And I'm like, rock and roll? Like, how different of a Chronicles of Narnia are we getting? But this article floored me. Oscar winner Meryl Streep is in talks to play Aslan, the Great Lion, and Greta Gerwig. We have confirmed with sources. We understand that they are not quite at the offer stage yet, however. So right there is I don't want to say a red flag, but it does have me questioning things. In the novels, Aslan is a talking lion who serves as Narnia's guardian and a guide for the human children. Portrayed normally as male, Aslan was created as an allegory for Jesus by author C.S. Lewis. Nexus Point was the first with Meryl Streep talks, and also reported that the film will adapt the sixth novel in the Narnia series, The Magician's Nephew, which chronologically takes place first in the series. The novel tells the origin of Narnia and is centered on Digory Kirky and Polly Plummer, who discover the magical world through Digory's uncle's magic. The site reports that Aslan will be female in Gerwig's adaptation. We hadn't had these plot details confirmed yet. So one of the questions that we did have early on was, what is the chronological order that they're going to tell it? Because The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is not the first story, but would they kick off with that story? So it does feel very much like Greta Gerwig is starting off in a chronological order. Netflix seemingly is going to be taking very much like a big world building view of this world, and clearly starting it from beginning, and that would be The Magician's Nephew. So when I think of The Magician's Nephew, if we are going that route, maybe Daniel Craig's role will then in fact be the uncle of Digory Kirky, tapping into, you know, who discovered the magical world through Digory's uncle's magic. So Daniel Craig will in fact be the uncle in here. Look, Nexus Point News tends to hit, I'm not going to lie, in regards to sources of information. They seem to come across news very early. Same thing with Jeff Schneider. Insider sources, those are probably two sources that I certainly trust. So the fact that they are reporting that Meryl Streep is in talks, I'm kind of leaning to the idea of believing them to a certain extent. It is interesting. It says they are in talks to play. She is in talks to play, but they're not quite at the offer stage yet, however. So how far into this are they at this particular point in time? If an offer hasn't been made, is it just the idea of like, hey, we would like you to be in this role. How do you feel about it? Have they just approached her about it? Or and they haven't even like negotiated anything yet. Has she not even fully seen the script? Is she just being talked about in the sense of like, hey, would you like to be in this particular role? So I do find that fascinating. Usually, if there is momentum behind this becoming a real thing, it would say an offer has been made or negotiations are kind of underway, in a sense that she's seen the script, she gets the idea of what this is being developed, how much she's potentially getting paid. She's kind of really on board. So does this finalize the idea that Meryl Streep is going to be Aslan? No, it certainly doesn't. But if she's been talked to about the role, it is interesting to kind of tease the direction in which it could potentially go for who Aslan is certainly going to be. Look, I love Meryl Streep, but Greta Gerwig is certainly going to put her own vision on what this is supposed to be, and it does ruffle my feathers in one way, and the only way is, I don't mind the idea of, well, first off, when we see Aslan is a male tiger, right? He is a male tiger. He's got the big mane, right? Female tigers, or female lions, excuse me, he is a male lion. Female lions do not look the same. So are they gonna, like, the issue I have is then redesigning Aslan. Because Aslan is notoriously known for being a male lion with the big mane. All right. So are we redesigning Aslan to look now more like a female lion? Is he gonna look like Nala from the Lion King live action or something like that? There is like a gravitas to the concept of the male lion, with the big mane and how he carries himself in the sense of dominance and like king of the jungle. You know what I mean? If the allegory has always been he is a representation of Jesus, look, I'm also not gonna be completely blind and naive to the idea that there are some people out there that think that, God was a woman. God was a woman. Maybe they play off of this sense of, if Aslan is supposed to come across, Granny's supposed to come across, that's more like Jesus instead of God per se. But maybe that's how they bend the message in here, in the sense of God being a woman, and so Aslan then in turn should be represented by a female lion. Maybe that's the route that they're kind of go, keeping that same allegory of what Aslan is supposed to kind of represent, but just in a female body. And that would lean towards sort of Greta Gerwig sort of woman empowerment, feminist messaging and things like that in regards to it. But I just think I don't have a problem with that so much as I have a problem with the redesigning of the Aslan character. Because to me, I mean, who knows? Maybe they keep Aslan the same and put a woman's voice in there. Maybe because it is sort of like this spiritual aspect, you can have Aslan look the same but have a woman's body. But then to me, it just wouldn't make sense in the idea of like, if you're just going to keep Aslan, who is being represented to us as a male lion, right, and the king of the jungle, why not just have somebody like Daniel Craig or another male voice in that regards? So my issue would then be, again, I love Meryl Streep, and I have no problem with the vision that Greta Gerwig wants to tell. If this turns out, look, I'll have to see the final like outline and what this film actually turns out to be the final judge. But I have a problem with the idea of Aslan himself now having to be redesigned, if that's the route that they're going to go, from this big male king of the lion sort of figure to then now be redesigned to what a female lion should certainly look like, which just doesn't hold the same gravitas as like Aslan the lion certainly does. So I'll be interested to kind of see what they do here. Like, my issue is more the redesigning possibility of Aslan than it is the concept of a woman taking the place and voicing over Aslan, if that makes sense. I don't have a problem with Meryl Streep doing that. It's the representation, I think, of Aslan and his design compared to, if you are going to go female, it only makes sense that you then redesign who Aslan is instead of just putting a female's voice on Aslan. Granted, this is a fucking fictional world that we let C.S. Lewis created, so you can clearly do whatever the hell that you want to do with it. But I just think if you're going to have Aslan the way that he's represented, I think it should just be voiced by a male. Because otherwise, I'm under the impression that they will then have to redesign Aslan, and I don't know if that just holds the same weight to me as it normally would. So that would be my issues with the Meryl Streep being brought in here. Again, it says she's been talked to. Doesn't say she's formally been sort of offered the role yet. So I think this could pass by. We'll see if Meryl Streep wants to go ahead and take it on. But it is interesting that this information is certainly coming out, and it does beg the question: what the hell are we getting from Greta Gerwig when it comes to Chronicles of Narnia? Because I'm really excited for it. I want to revisit this world of Chronicles of Narnia, and I really love what Greta's been able to do with a couple of her past films. So we'll see. We'll see. But I'm sure that this is going to ruffle some feathers. Yeah, he's an allegory of Jesus. Yeah, absolutely. Aslan, Narnia is an allegory of the Bible. I'm guessing the horse and his boy and the magician's nephew is the beginning of Narnia and how God made this world. Yeah. So again, I think the premise of how God made this world, you're right. The magician's nephew seems like it's going to be the first book in here. So if how God made this world, if Greta's taking the twist here, that some people suggest, God's a woman. Maybe then, if in the Bible Jesus is sort of made as like the human counterpart to that of God in God's image, it would make sense that then, if God is a woman in this story, that Aslan would certainly be that that allegory to Jesus, and thus Aslan being female as well. So maybe that's the route that they're kind of going. Yeah, see, Aslan is a male line. He's the allegory of Jesus. So again, if the idea is we're bringing Meryl Streep in to voice Aslan, I'm under the impression that the allegory here is that a female created this world, and so therefore Aslan has to be represented by a female as well. But then again, then you're asking to kind of change the whole design of who Aslan certainly is as a lion. They should different name for female lion, not Aslan, because C.S. Lewis designed the character. Yeah, maybe they come up with a brand new name, Aslania. I have no idea. I have no idea. But an interesting story, to certainly say the least. I am curious. I'm sure Marcelino mentions people are trying to boycott this movie now, and kill woke culture, saying that it's to cancel Greta Gerwig's Narnia and to kill woke culture. Hey, to each their own, man. But yeah, really interesting. I have the problem with the Aslan design. I don't want them to change the Aslan design, but I would assume that they would then change his design if it is in fact a female line that they're going to be going for. But again, this is again, this may not even come to fruition. But we'll definitely have to certainly wait and see. But I am curious to know what you guys think in the comment section box below. But that will do it for all of our live viewer questions today, guys. So thank you so much for everybody, not live viewer questions, for all of our main topics here today. Appreciate you guys certainly sticking around for our topics portion of the show. But I think you know what time it is.
Now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions.
And we are back with live viewer questions. Did that thing even play? It froze on my side, so I don't even know if that played, if the live viewer question segment played properly or not. My stuff has been kind of freezing here a little bit, but let me know if it played for you guys. In the meantime, I am going to throw on some music here and bring down this volume a little bit. And as this music plays, give me a second for my voice to kind of get back to normal here. If you guys ever want to submit a live viewer question, and if you guys ever want to submit a live viewer question, you go about doing so. It's pretty easy to submit a live viewer question. Go ahead and showcase to you how easy it is. Every Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, we will be posting a live viewer question post for you guys. Go over to our YouTube channel, as you see right here. Click on that post tab right there, and voila, live viewer questions. Every Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, I will be posting them for you guys. So let's go through here and see what we got today. Marcelino, recently the showrunner of Creature Commandos. Let me make sure this is looking good on my side. Okay. Recently, the showrunner of Creature Commando said that in the vision where we see the destroyed world with all the dead heroes, one of the corpses is Wally West as the Flash. He's in the background silhouette, so he's hard to see. But with that, what's your expectation for the Flash in DCU? Or is it possible that this was just for the interview and it could get retconned? I don't think this will get retconned. I have a feeling that this will be Wally West Flash. If I had to make a guess here, I'm going to be on an impression that this will be Wally West. I'm hoping that it's Wally West going forward in the DCU. Look, man, I know people love Barry Allen. People have loved Barry Allen ever since he was around. But I grew up reading comic books in the 90s. And for me, my Flash was always Wally West. The guy had, I don't even know how long he had the mantle for as the Flash, but he was literally a whole generation's Flash before getting sidelined to a sidekick status with the new Wally West design, or coming back as this crazy ass killer, people with guy with mental problems and stuff, all in turn to kind of push Barry Allen back into the spotlight. Look, Barry Allen had a great run on CW's Flash, but I think there's a time and a place, especially if we're going to be honest about this, if we are coming into a world that has already been established and has a history behind it. I see no reason why Wally West should not be the main Flash for the DCU. We got a retired Hal Jordan already kind of pushing the mantle to be pushed onto John Stewart at this point. We know we got an aged Guy Gardner as well in here. I don't see why we can't have a aged Barry Allen, or what happened to Barry already happening from Crisis. And when we get into this, Wally West and his family of the other Flashes are kind of in charge here. So I don't think James Gunn would allow them to put Wally West in the back of Creature Commandos if he wasn't fully aware of Wally West being in there. I'm sure all those people that we see on the screen had to be pre-approved in some way or another. So I fully expect as we go forward, I don't think any of this will be retconned. I think going forward, the Flash will be Wally West. Whatever happened to the Illuminati? I heard Joe left, which threw me off because I always thought he stayed there for life, and Illuminati doesn't seem to be active on YouTube as much as they did. They're posting on Twitter, still upload on YouTube, but they would regularly make theories and talk about rumors for potential movies. However, they now kind of slowed down. Yeah, I think maybe Joe was running the ship a lot. I think Joe has left. His friend Jezer has left too. Joe has gone on to work for Screen Rant right now. And I think he brought Jezer along as well for the ride in regards to doing the video and editing work and stuff. Joe does a lot of traveling now. He's got great opportunities with Screen Rant. The man is doing some great interviews. He's going to comic conventions, hosting panels, doing further interviews. I just saw him last summer here at Fan Expo Dallas. I got to hang out with him for like a few hours and talk with him and stuff. He's getting really wonderful opportunities, and I think once they took Joe and Jezer, the rest of the crew, maybe just slow down or kind of become kind of stagnant and stuff. They don't necessarily have that same gravitas or that same level of I don't know the people over at Illuminati, so I don't want to disrespect them in the sense of not having the same level of work ethic. But maybe it's just kind of fallen by the wayside for some of them, and they haven't really had those same opportunities now that Joe and Jezer just aren't there anymore. So that could certainly be it. But yeah, I haven't really seen them do a lot of big articles since then, unfortunately. Let's see. Peg C. What are your thoughts on the reports that Michael Jackson biopic could be split into 2 parts due to reshoots? It would not surprise me. They filmed the whole entire film, if I'm not mistaken, from reports, but then come to realize there were aspects that they had filmed and talked about in that movie that they legally were not meant to. And the fact that the Jackson family and the lawyers there did not speak with those in charge of the director and the writer in regards to things that they could and could not speak about, I find just really bananas to me, and just very unprofessional of the Jackson 5 family and their lawyers to allow that to even happen. And so now you've got them having spent a ton of money, and now they really have to sort of reshoot maybe the whole entire second half of their film. So the idea of them splitting it into 2 parts would make sense to me. Maybe there are things in the first half of the movie that they can kind of get away with, but I don't know. I think it should, I don't know. I feel like they could have easily have made 1 film. Some could argue Michael Jackson's career is just so wide and expansive that you probably could make 2 movies out of it. But now if you're just making 2 movies out of it because of legal reasons, I just don't know if financially if that's beneficial for Lionsgate or whoever's in charge of it, unless they are trying to recoup some of that money and think, hey, if we take a lot of the stuff that we've filmed already and just add a little bit more and expand upon it, maybe we can make some of that money back, because people will come out to see a Michael Jackson biopic, considering how big he certainly was during the 90s and early 2000s. Maybe you can double dip and making 2 films and make that money back for doing reshoots in some way. I don't know if that's how they're viewing the possibility of doing it, but it would make sense to me just based off of the issues that they came up with. What are your thoughts on the passing of Val Kilmer? Which is your favorite movie with Val Kilmer? Top Gun, The Doors, Batman Forever, The Saint. Probably I really loved him in Heat. I thought Val Kilmer in Heat was incredible. I did love him in Top Gun also. Somebody brought up another movie he was just in that I completely forgot that he was in. I'll have to look into the stream, but I thought that was another one too. I don't know if I would put Batman Forever up there with some of his great works. Top Gun, Heat, or ones, and then also Willow. That's what it was. Willow. I loved him in Willow also. I don't really have a full notion of all of Val Kilmer's history, but those are some of the movies I saw him in that I was really impressed with. There's going to be a documentary on Disney Plus April 7th called Not Just a Goof, about the Goofy movie. Were you a fan of the Goofy movie and the sequel, an extremely goofy movie? If so, what are your thoughts on the film? No, I was never. I mean, I like Goofy as a character. I like Goofy as a character, but I know that the first Goofy movie was big. If you were a kid back in the day and you saw a Goofy movie, it floored people. Like, people were really big fans of that film. I don't think to this day I've ever seen a Goofy movie or even the sequel at all. I might have been a little bit too old during that time, and it was just like, oh, I'm too cool for that. So I may not have watched it. So I'm curious as to like why they're making a documentary about it. Was there drama behind the scenes? Are they just doing it behind the scenes because of the fact that it was such a big movie? I don't know. I'm curious. Let me know your thoughts. But no, I really have no opinions on those films. What did you think of the decision to recast Jennifer Parker and Back to the Future 2 due to Claudia Wells' personal reasons? While understandable, highlights a point of contention when contrasted with the handling of George McFly's character. While Jennifer, despite her limited screen time in the sequels, was seamlessly replaced by Elizabeth Shue, the producer opted for more of a controversial approach with George. Instead of a straightforward recasting after Crispin Glover's departure due to the disputed reasons, they employed a stand-in and prosthetic makeup to mimic his appearance. This decision, despite the character's minimal presence in the later films, ignited a long-standing feud with Glover, who rightfully felt his likeness was exploited without his consent. I can understand that. Because it to the point to where I literally watched the movie and I'm like, is that the same guy? Like, or is it the same guy with just makeup? So I, for a long time, believed that was the same guy. So I can see why he would be mad. This raises the question why, given the precedent of recasting a significant character like Jennifer with little disruption to the narrative, that the filmmakers choose the ethically dubious route of mimicking Crispin Glover instead of simply finding another actor to portray George McFly. The ramifications of this choice extended beyond mere production logistics, resulting in legal battles and a lingering sense of injustice for Glover. His willingness to have been recast as long as his likeness wasn't used underscores the unnecessary nature of the producer's action. The few scenes featuring the stand-in George, often relegated to the background or obscured, arguably could have been executed just as effectively, if not more so, with a new actor. The contrast between this smooth recasting of Jennifer and a contentious portrayal of George serves as a stark reminder of the ethical considerations that should guide filmmakers' decision, particularly when dealing with the actor's likeness or creative control. I do wonder if there was a level of like pettiness involved in that decision. At least it comes across that way to me. Because I mean, if you're gonna get to recast Jennifer, and then when you come back to the George McFly character, who is only seen in a future sequence, why not just recast him? I think you can get away with recasting an older George McFly probably easier than you can recasting Jennifer. And Jennifer was kind of seamless, although although I do remember as a kid realizing I realized the recasting of Jennifer more than I realized the recasting of George McFly under makeup that looked like Crispin Glover. So I wouldn't say the Jennifer recast was seamless, at least not for me, but I understood it. I was like, okay, they just got somebody else new. So I don't understand why they went the route of just not recasting George McFly if you're dealing with an older version of George McFly. They probably didn't need to do the whole prosthetics thing to make him look like George. Just recast him. So I don't know. There's a level of pettiness that I wonder what involved in that decision. So that's interesting. My friends call me Joseph. Nicholas Starr, Drake Bell, and Josh Peck, known for their roles in The Amanda Show and their own popular sitcom Drake and Josh, were part of the network now facing serious scrutiny regarding the treatment of its young performers. Bell publicly revealed in a documentary, Quiet on Set, that he was repeatedly sexually assaulted at the age of 15 by dialogue coach Brian Peck, who had minor roles in Nickelodeon shows All That and The Amanda Show. Peck was convicted of lewd conduct with a minor in 2003, but Bell's identity was protected at the time. Bell later disclosed on Sarah Fraser Show podcast that he attended rehab after his documentary interview. Despite his close friendship since The Amanda Show, Josh Peck was unaware of Bell's trauma, as Bell explained on Josh's The Good Guys podcast that he feared jeopardizing his burgeoning career during the height of Drake and Josh's success. Bell often masked his pain through his work and time spent with Josh. Even their later on-screen reunion grandfathered occurred before Bell publicly shared his experience. Quiet on set has also brought to light broader allegations of Nickelodeon and executive producer Dan Schneider, who tenured from 1994 to 2019, oversaw numerous popular children's sitcoms. These allegations include salary discrimination, sexism, inappropriate behavior, and sexual abuse, and many of Schneider's shows contain jokes and scenarios now viewed as having clear undertones of child pornography, such as sexually suggestive scenes. I do. Yeah. Given their revelations in the documentary long-term impact on childhood trauma, what systemic changes need to be implemented within the industries to better safeguard young performers and prevent such abuses from occurring? One, I would say, I don't know how easy this is, but one, if they're children performers, I think the parents should be on set with them at all times. Granted, some of these parents are willing, and it's not all parents, but I'm sure some parents are willing to put their blinders on in order for their kids to be successful. But I would hope that there are some parents out there that would be more protective of their kids and the situations that they kind of put them in. So if I'm a studio executive and I know that I'm handling underage kids, I would almost make it an option, at least, to have your parents on set while you're filming at all times to make sure that we're treating you properly. You know what I mean? Hollywood is a very nasty place. Some of the allegations and things that go on in Hollywood, I tend to believe, just because as much stuff as we hear that comes out, it's hard not to believe it. And I'm not to say that that's every creator, that's every writer, that's every director, that's every producer on set or anything like that. But when you're young and in Hollywood, people will take advantage of you, unfortunately, whether that be financially, whether that be sexually, racism wise, they will take advantage of you. So, I don't know what other changes can be made. I don't know if there are things that need to be put inside of their contracts. Maybe the people that maybe the people that get to work with underage people, maybe they should be vetted more thoroughly. Background checks for some of these directors and producers. Hey man, if you're going to create a show based off of this that handles young kids, maybe you should be vetted for some level of what's your background like? What have you been posting on social media? Are you hiding anything from us, sort of thing, to see if there are any things that suggest that this person may be just rotten to the core and willing to take advantage of these people, and you also got to have, I don't want to say this because sometimes I think you just have to have people with morals, but I think that could be skewed certain ways. How do you judge if somebody has correct morals or not, or doing the right thing by these kids? Because it is all about making money in Hollywood. And I think you just have to have good standards in the sense of who is leading the production, what's their mindset behind this production and stuff. So I would say more background checks on the people that are actually making these shows. If you want to propose a show that handles younger kids, you got to go through various background checks, and you got to have maybe an opportunity to have their parents on set with them at all times, to make sure that they're properly not being taken advantage of in some way. And I think also maybe some level of therapists, people that they feel that they can go to, that's like an independent source, away from their parents, away from their the production company, that they can go and talk to if they feel like they're being threatened, or they feel like they're being misused or something like that inappropriately. So those are some of the ways that I would go. Again, I don't really know how that all works behind the scenes in that sense, but those would be some of my suggestions. Marky, what's up, Marky? With the upcoming release of Michael Jackson's biopic in October, starring his nephew Jafar Jackson, I think that's on hold now. I don't think that's going to make its release date. One can't help but wonder how it will compare to previous portrayals of the iconic artist. The Jacksons: An American Dream, based on Katherine Jackson's autobiography, was largely well-received dramatization of the family's rise to fame, praised for its acting and choreography, though some critics found it somewhat sanitized and lacking depth in later years. while others appreciate it as a necessary and well-done docudrama offering insights into the creation of the Jackson 5 and Michael Jackson. I thought that was a great one. I grew up on that one a lot, so I was a really big fan of that one. In contrast, Man in the Mirror, the Michael Jackson story, was almost universally panned by critics and fans alike. This unauthorized TV movie was criticized for its unflattering and inaccurately portrayal of Jackson, its low production quality, poor casting, and for being tasteless attempts to capitalize on the controversy surrounding the singer at the time, with many considering a significant disservice to his legacy. I don't know if I've ever seen the Man in the Mirror one. Maybe I have to go back and certainly check it out and see that. But I always grew up with the Jacksons, An American Dream, the miniseries. I remember watching that vividly when I was younger. And I didn't mind it so much because I think there was a cutoff point, right? Like, I think there was a cutoff point in Michael Jackson's career where they didn't kind of go any further. But I always viewed it as not just a Michael Jackson biopic, but literally as a family biopic. And I think in that regards, I think it was relatively truthful. I mean, I'm sure there's probably more stuff that they probably could have talked about, but I never walked away from the Jackson 5 American Dream miniseries like, oh, that's such a perfect family. Like, no, I realized that Michael Jackson and his kid and his siblings had a fucked up, like, upbringing, had a very difficult upbringing. So I think being able to take away something along those lines, I think leads to an appropriate kind of telling of somebody's life, in the sense that it wasn't all roses for them. They really went through some stuff that would probably explain a lot of why, when they get older as adults and things like that, why they act the way that they do. That's not a pass as to some of the things that they do, but it explains like their personality traits as they get older, sort of thing. So I was a big fan. I have not watched The Man in the Mirror, the Michael Jackson story from 2004, but maybe I'll check that one out. So thank you for that, Marky. Jessica Fryman, with Snow White flopping at the box office, do you think it's time for Disney to stop making live action remakes and go back to making animated movies, which early in the late 2000s Disney show would like to get a reboot? Or late 2000s Disney show would you like to get a reboot? So I would like to see them go back to doing more animation. I would be completely okay with that, honestly. I think that's their bread and butter. They should go back to doing more of that. But I don't have a problem with them doing live action remakes. I need them to make good live action remakes. I think people are willing to go out and see these remakes, but I think they need a more of a steady, proven track record instead of the roller coaster ride that is quality levels and things like that. Because people do come out for reboots, people do come out for remakes, especially if it's a well recognized IP. I don't think they need to do every single one, but if they have a really popular one that they know people will love, go ahead and do that. If it's an animated film that wasn't so popular, maybe do an animated sequel or something like that, or an animated television series around that series. I don't think they have to do one for everyone, but I do think they need to take a step back and look at the quality and ask themselves why they're making it and how can we improve and build upon these classic animated ones instead of just rehashing everything. So I do think there are clearly better ways that they can remake their stuff. So I'm not opposed to them making more. I just think they need to pick their movies wisely and pick their creatives more wisely. As far as what I would like to see get a reboot, you know what? I don't know what. Well, Disney show, definitely Darkwing Duck, which I think we're gonna get one too. I definitely want to see Darkwing Duck. I think they did one for Tailspins. I can't remember, but Darkwing Duck for me is up there. Was Gargoyles Disney? Or maybe that's Fox, but I think Gargoyles might be under Disney now. Yeah, Gargoyles and Darkwing Duck would be the two, just off the top of my head. For some reason, Morphing Grid, that one didn't come up for. I'll come back to you in a second, Morphing Grid. I'm going to try and pull this up because for some reason it's not allowing me to see the questions in full. So for you, so I'll come right back to that one. Sam, what's up, Sam? Hi, Adam. Hope you're okay. I'm doing good, man. I heard about Toei not involved in Power Rangers anymore and Kamen Rider expand to Western. It will be interesting. Yeah, I think they gave a interview as Toei is looking to become more global and have more of a Western expansion. But they've talked about that they're not really connected to Power Rangers anymore. I have to finish reading the article to see if they talk about the idea, like if that completely eliminates the option for doing anything Super Sentai related, or if that is sort of too on the nose for Super Sentai to even be expanded Western wise. But I'll be interested to see what they do there. But I love the idea of them trying to westernize a little bit more. I think they should. As far as their involvement in Power Rangers, yeah, I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. Hasbro's clearly doing something different with Power Rangers, but I also think this allows Toei to be a little bit more free and have more freedom in regards to the stories that they want to tell and take more creative risks with Super Sentai, which I feel like they definitely have been doing over the past several years. I have this argument with people all the time, and I just had this argument with somebody last week in regards to Power Rangers and how limiting Power Rangers how Power Rangers was limited by Super Sentai. Look, there's a real argument out there that some people have that Super Sentai does not limit Power Rangers. And I just think that's inherently false. I think people are misusing their argument when they say that, though, right? Like, I think you could find any. I think you could talk to any creator in Power Rangers, whether that be writers, director, editor, actor. I think you can find any Power Ranger person that has ever touched a pen in creating something for Power Rangers that will tell you in some way or another Super Sentai footage is inherently limiting. Though that is a completely different argument from, can you make a great Power Rangers series using Sentai footage? You can. RPM is a great example of that. You have great creators that are able to write around certain things while still using Sentai footage. In Space is a great example of that. Jude Lin has literally come out and said he wanted to make a PR sort of exclusive footage and use minimal Super Sentai footage as much as he possibly could, because even he recognizes the idea that Super Sentai footage can be limiting. You can create great Power Rangers series, but you cannot tell me that despite how great those series are, that they could not be even better had the creators behind them been allowed more creative freedom to use less and less Super Sentai footage. Because Super Sentai footage, unfortunately, holds you to some level of storytelling that you may not want to tell. Maybe you don't want to have to do a scene where you got 3 Rangers fighting against somebody. Maybe you're creatively, you have plans. I want the whole team to be involved, but you can't have the whole team involved in the scene, because when you start using Sentai footage, these are the only people involved in here. Or maybe you don't necessarily want to tell a Power Ranger story where there's a Zord battle involved, but you have to use it. You have to find a way to get to that fight sequence, right? Like, there's always some level of using footage and adapting something that will limit you. That's a completely different argument than Power Rangers being able to make great seasons using Sentai footage. That's not my argument. My argument, though, is regardless of how good a Power Rangers season is or how awful a season is, using Super Sentai footage in some capacity will always limit you from telling the story that you creatively want to tell. And people don't seem to understand that, and they continue to give me pushback in regards to it. And I had a big argument with some people this past week in that regards. But I think you can also look at Super Sentai and realize that they too are no longer limited in having to worry about how Power Rangers is going to adapt what we create, because now they're just making as many creative decisions as they want, doing leaps and bounds and taking chances, doing great anniversary series sort of thing. There's a lot more freedom to Super Sentai stories that are now being told without having to worry about how Power Rangers is going to adapt some of this stuff. So I think it certainly goes both ways. But thank you so much for that question, Sam. The power of the morphing grid, the impact and legacy of Catherine Hillard. Catherine Sutherland's portrayal of Catherine Hillard stands as a cornerstone of the Power Ranger legacy, embodying resilience and growth across multiple iterations of the series, from Mighty Morphin, Zeo, and Turbo. Introduced under the initial sway of Rita Repulsa, Catherine's inherent goodness ultimately led to her pivotal integration into the Mighty Morphin team, a transition symbolically marked by Kimberly Hart's passing of her Ninja Power coin. This act not only established Catherine as the first successor to the Pink Ranger mantle, but also sets the stage for her own unique journey. Over subsequent seasons, especially Zeo, Catherine's character deepened, more notably through the development and meaningful relationship with Tommy Oliver, a bond that resonated with audiences given their shared history of overcoming manipulation. While the initial plans for Power Rangers Dino Thunder involved bringing back Catherine as Tommy's wife, Catherine Sutherland's retirement for acting at the time prevented this, further emphasizing the distinct paths their characters ultimately took. This evolution solidified Catherine's position as a significant figure within Power Rangers, a beloved character whose impact extended beyond simply filling the shoes of her predecessor. Decades later, Catherine Sutherland's return in anniversary specials further cemented Catherine's enduring legacy. These appearances not only allowed Sutherland to reprise her iconic role, but also provide crucial narrative developments, most significantly in the confirmation of her lasting relationship with Tommy, revealing them as parents. The 30th anniversary offered a poignant nod to their past, featuring Catherine's utilizing a proxy of Kimberly's power coin, highlighting the interconnectedness of the Rangers lineage. Sutherland's continued engagement with the Power Rangers community through conventions and her YouTube channel underscore her dedication to the fandom. A contrast to Amy Jo Johnson's early distance from the franchise. Given the significant act of Kimberly's passing her powers to Catherine and the development of Catherine's own journey, what specific aspects of the individual experiences and contributions most significantly shaped the enduring legacy of the Pink Ranger within the Power Ranger universe? So what specific aspects of their individual experiences and contributions more significantly shaped the enduring legacy of the Power Ranger, of the Pink Ranger within the Power Ranger unit? What are you saying there? As in, I would assume Kimberly and Catherine. I don't know about significantly shape the enduring legacy of Power Ranger, of the Pink Ranger, but I think if anything for me, probably the return of Amy Jo Johnson to Power Rangers in that sense, I think helped really solidify her role and just the legacy of the Pink Ranger. I think, her departure from the franchise, I think hurt a lot of fans in this sense. Granted, these actors aren't their characters, and they have every right to want to go ahead and move on with their careers and do what they certainly want to do. So, nothing against Amy Jo Johnson for that, but I am glad that at some point in time she recognizes the fans and understands the love after all these years that she certainly still has, and the fact that she has come back and has had such a pivotal role, whether that be a quick cameo, whether that be helping write Boom Studios comic books. The idea that she's no longer sort of turning shade, I think not only solidifies her further career and legacy as a Power Ranger, but I think in turn then does boost the legacy of Kimberly. And it's not like some gray area, right, or some shade in regards to her character. I think it helps solidify her role, and I think in turn boosts the legacy too of Catherine Sutherland as Cat too, in regards to just continue to solidify the importance of Pink Rangers. And maybe that's something that Amy Jo Johnson recognizes, especially her role as a female Ranger. Doomsday. Actually, let me get to Blossom real quick. Blossom, do you remember when Adam used a broken morpher? Besides the power coins being long gone, how come his power morpher was broken? Though the same thing for my counterpart for Yellow, What was the story behind Adam? It's been years since I watched Mighty Morphin. What was the story behind it that his power was broken? It was because of the vents, right? Because they eventually went on to become Zeo, and they couldn't use that power any longer. So whatever happened in the events from Mighty Morphin over to Zeo is what caused it and allowed them and made them have to wind up changing their power set. But yeah, that definitely made it much more risky for them to go ahead and use it after that. Thought of the same thing from my counterpart for Yellow Flash, Sarah. Her morphin was broken because she and her robot crashed on Earth during a 1,000-year slumber. This happened years before my Ranger's new imagination powers woke them up. Thought of her using a broken morpher because the Nightmare Empire's cronies were trespassing in the base just to take Ranger's Zords and use them against the kids. How's that? I mean, that works for me. If anything, I would just put some stakes on the idea of having to utilize it. If you are using a broken morpher, I think what made Adam's moment so incredible was the idea of the risk taking and the idea of like this selflessness to put himself at risk in order to help other people, knowing what the cost could possibly be. So just add some stakes and some costs to the idea of your Ranger having to use anything broken. Doomsday, isn't it crazy that Super Sentai is officially 50 years old? Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I think it just goes to the levity of the longevity, I should say, of Super Sentai over in Japan. I am curious as to what their ratings have been though over the past couple of years. Speaking of which, what are your 3 favorite Sentai seasons? For me, Go Kaiger being my all-time favorite, Time Ranger being my second favorite of all time, and Decker Ranger being my third favorite of all time. Go Kaiger is probably still my number 1. Tokuger is gonna be up there. Man, and I'm an old head, but damn, it's almost a flip of the coin between Go Busters and Kara Major for me. Maybe I'll have to do a rewatch for Kara Major, but Kara Major is a close third for me, if not in number 4 spot. But it would probably be Go Kaiger, Tokuger, and then maybe Go Busters and Kara Major, with those last 2 flipping and flopping from time to time. Do you think that Snyder's Glazers will start review bombing the new Superman movie when it gets released in order to get people not to watch it, so we'll flop at the box office, if that makes sense? Yeah, I'm sure they will if they haven't started already. I'm sure they're probably trying to downvote, dislike everything that they possibly can. I don't know how much impact it'll certainly have, because I feel like the support for the new Superman is outweighing the negativity that we've been seeing. I don't think the ratio is there. And I think James Gunn has the secret weapon in crypto that will bring in non-superhero viewers and just people that love dogs. I mean, my girlfriend alone, isn't a big Superman head, but I remember we watched the first trailer, and she saw crypto and she's like, I'm sold. Like, she literally is going to go see Superman because she loved the appearance of crypto, and it's a dog. So I think James Gunn's secret weapon for this movie certainly is crypto, and I think it'll get people out regardless to see this movie. So yeah, they'll definitely start review bombing immediately if they already have not started before this movie is even out. But whatever, they can do whatever they want to. What will determine this movie will be the script and how good the movie is in and of itself. And if it's a good script and it's a good movie, word of mouth alone will get people to come out and talk about this film. And it's Superman. I think people are going to come out and see Superman in droves regardless. And if the story is good, if the action is good, if the emotional connections are there, it will only continue to grow by word of mouth, regardless of what people are saying on Twitter and the Snyder Bros. Sometimes you just can't help momentum of great films. You know what I mean? You can try all you want to, but you just can't help them. But yeah, that will do it for all of our live viewer questions today, guys. So thank you everybody who certainly joined me today in the live chat, especially for this solo dolo adventure that I've had today. If you come back to this channel, if you haven't done so yet, please on our YouTube channel, hit that like button, continue to show your support for this channel. It definitely helps the algorithm. Feel free to go ahead and share these videos, comment on these videos afterwards. If there's any topics in particular that you want to talk about, I may probably go ahead and put a timeline and put some timestamps on things. So if you come back to the video, you can certainly navigate through some of these topics if you want to go ahead and talk about them further. But I love talking with you guys about this stuff, and we certainly will be back next week. Myself, along with Stuart, will be making his return, and we'll have 6 incredible topics to break down for you guys. If you guys haven't checked out, I have also posted my Daredevil Born Again episode 7 review. It is currently up on our channel. If you want to get my thoughts on the newest episode of Daredevil Born Again, please go ahead and let me know. But that is currently up. And then, yeah, any other news that drops this week, we'll probably talk about it with you guys there even more. And yeah, that'll do it for me here, guys. So I'll certainly see you guys next week. It's always a pleasure talking with you guys. But in the meantime, do me a big favor, as always, guys. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. I'll see you next weekend. Bye.